promised by Ben. That night, everything I believed in shattered. My wife, my boss, and my entire life destroyed. It all started when I was in elementary school. I thought everyone viewed the world like I did, and I thought it was completely normal. Because of my unique abilities, doctors finally evaluated me after I finished high school and before I went to college. The result? I am a high-functioning autistic person with synesthesia, a condition seen in just a small percentage of people. My parents never thought I was autistic while I was growing up. They believed my different skills came from being smart. As a high-functioning autistic individual, I was only a little awkward in social situations. I often said exactly what was on my mind without holding back. I couldn't lie, even if it would make me look better. Telling jokes came easily to me, but lying did not. Now, as an adult, looking back, I see that my condition started as number form synesthesia. After I learned basic math, I could see numbers in different colors in my head when I thought about equations. For example, if the teacher asked what 2 plus 2 was, I would picture the numbers 2, 2 in red, while other numbers danced around it in various colors. I quickly learned that numbers colored in shades of green were the correct answers. By middle school, the answers began to show up in different ways. Sticking with 2 plus 2, instead of seeing the number 4 in green, I started to see the word 4 spelled out, but it was still green. This made things difficult because longer answers needed to be changed back into numbers or equations. Despite this, my math grades were mixed. It felt like my brain understood the math but didn't always let me show how I got the answers. I often got the right answers but struggled to explain my thought process, which affected my grades and made others suspicious. Sometimes, I was even accused of cheating, but nobody ever actually caught me doing that. While I excelled in math and science, I found history and social studies very challenging. Memorizing names, places, and events was not my strong suit. As I continued my education, my version of synesthesia changed too. I didn't have a perfect memory, which I would have liked, but I learned to make the best of the unique skills I had. In college, courses like calculus and differential equations opened new doors for me. As I learned more advanced math, I began to see groups of answers in different shades of green, realizing that darker greens were more accurate than lighter ones. I found my strength in statistics and probabilities. Although many of my classmates disliked certain subjects, I grew fond of them because they shaped the way I saw the world through my unique way of thinking. I learned to notice things that others often missed. I eagerly took in as much information as I could and understood it in ways that were different from most people. Understanding became my goal in school. In college, I stopped talking about my special way of thinking. The word autistic, whether mild or more extreme, made others see me as smart in some areas but lacking in others. I became the person everyone asked for help, but I struggled to connect with others socially. I couldn't easily hide my true self, but I figured out that not sharing everything about me could help me fit in better. This made it easier for me to go on dates. As I changed my circle of friends, I started to feel accepted as a different kind of smart person with a unique personality. In my final year of college, I met Mary Beth Meadows in one of my classes. She seemed truly beautiful, and many guys constantly tried to impress her. I thought she was way out of my reach, yet I admired her like everyone else. I dated a few girls who I thought were more suited for me, but every time I kissed someone, I found myself imagining it was Mary Beth. For some reason, that thought excited me. After 3 or 4 dates, though, the girls would slowly drift away. I think they found me unexciting. Sure, I could easily list many numbers or facts, but that didn't spark anyone's interest in me. My parents had often said that there would be someone for me, someone who would truly understand me. Life can bring surprising pairs together. One day while I was sitting alone in the campus library, Mary Beth approached me. "Is this seat taken?" Her lovely voice caught my attention. No, please, feel free to sit," I replied, feeling stunned. The girl I admired had come to sit next to me, and I couldn't help but wonder why. I half thought she was daring her friends to see who could ask the least appealing guy out. But Mary Beth was genuinely charming. "Hi, I'm Mary Beth Meadows. We haven't met properly yet." "I know you, Mary Beth. I've known for a long time. I'm Andrew Stevenson." "And how do you know my name?" she teased. "I'm pretty sure every guy on campus knows who you are." When the most beautiful girl walks into a room, every guy notices, I said, waving my hand to show her the attention she was getting. All eyes were on her, and here she was sitting next to me. She laughed at what I said, understanding it was true. You're funny and different from the other guys on campus, and that's what drew me to you, Andrew. There's something special about you. I can't quite figure it out yet, but I know it will come to me. To help, why don't you share something about yourself that might spark my memory? I already know you're really smart. Everyone talks about that, but it's not just that. No, there's something more, she said, tapping her chin thoughtfully. I was surprised that this girl who was stunning was interested in me at all. I wasn't sure what to say or what part of my life would interest her. Knowing she was far out of my league, I decided to be honest. I had nothing to lose. I'm not sure what you want me to say, Mary Beth, so here's the truth about me. Most people don't know this, so I hope you can keep it to yourself after today. I'm on the autism spectrum. It can be both a strength and a challenge for me. It helps explain why I'm good at math and analysis, but it also means my social skills aren't great. Most girls find me dull after a few dates. Is that what you wanted to know? I asked, feeling a bit down. She looked surprised for a moment as she searched my eyes. Then she reached for me and gave me a warm hug right there in the library. She pulled back and flashed me a bright smile. That's it. I knew there was something familiar about you, and you nailed it, she said with excitement. How do you mean? I have a 12-year-old sister, Marnie, who is also on the autism spectrum, but in a different way than you. I wouldn't change anything about her. She is the sweetest and most caring person I know. She has shown me so much about the importance of all people. She trusts others completely, even when they let her down. I love her dearly and would do anything to help her. I can see some traits of Marnie's in you now that I think about it. That was the piece I couldn't place. That alone makes you special to me. I totally understand about your social skills, and it wouldn't bother me at all. I've learned that it's best to be honest and clear with wonderful people like you and Marnie. So I have to ask, Andrew, do you have a girlfriend right now? I shook my head. Great! Would you like to meet me on Friday at 6 at the Chinese Emporium restaurant? It's only 2 blocks from campus. I know the place, Mary Beth. I don't really like Chinese food, but I do like pizza. She laughed at my honesty. I really like that about you, Andrew. Most guys would pretend to like Chinese food just to go out with me. You're so refreshing. Luckily, I love pizza too. Can you meet me at the pizza shop at the same time instead? I smiled and nodded. It's a date then. I'll see you in class tomorrow, Andrew, she said, giving me another warm hug. I hugged her back and she left as quickly as she arrived. That was how my relationship with Mary Beth Meadows began. We had a great time whenever we were together. She told me that I was the most interesting person she had ever met. She loved my thoughtful ideas, and we always had plenty to talk about. I wanted to learn everything about her. She reminded me of the actress Sydney Sweeney, with a lovely figure. I felt so lucky to be in her life. Other guys would try to talk to her right in front of me, but she would just brush them off and focus on me. On our 4th date, she invited me to her home to meet her family. Her sister Marnie liked me right away and stayed close to me all night. She seemed to see something special in me. I admired her sketches, which were impressively detailed. Mary Beth had never mentioned how talented her sister was. Marnie could draw animals with amazing shapes, and she had never had formal training. Her parents also liked me a lot and seemed happy with Mary Beth's choice. I enjoyed being close to her, but I let her lead the way in how we got closer. I was anxious about being too forward, and to make things even more challenging, I was inexperienced. I had seen a lot of movies, but that was different from real life. As the school year came to a close, she suggested we get a hotel room for a Saturday. We spent the day exploring our connection. It was clear she had more experience, but she was patient and supportive. By the end of the day, I felt more confident in this new part of my life, though I still had much to learn. We both wanted to make each other happy. It was an incredible experience for me. During our conversations that day, I shared with her about my synesthesia as best as I could. She was really interested in it. She had heard about synesthesia before, but had never met anyone who had it. My parents also adored Mary Beth and often praised me for being with someone so lovely who accepted my quirks and fit perfectly with me. A week before graduation, I asked her to marry me. To my surprise, she happily said yes. Her parents requested 6 months to plan the wedding, and we chose a date in December. This gave us time to find jobs and a place to live, and we enjoyed making all our decisions together. Mary Beth graduated and became a licensed clinical social worker. She got a job at a local school, working with teenagers, earning a good salary of $88,500 a year. Her love for helping others inspired her to work with students who needed special support. It was a perfect match for her, and I was so proud of her achievement. As for me, my studies focused on applied statistics and data analytics. Most graduates in my field looked for jobs as financial analysts, but I wanted to be an investment analyst for a company that bought and sold entire businesses instead. I went to interviews at many firms, but they didn't feel right for me. One of my professors reached out to say that he recommended me to Higgins Investments, Inc. A former student told him they were looking for a junior analyst. I was thankful for the recommendation and arrived early for my interview. Don Sharp, the lead analyst, asked me many questions. "Mr. Stevenson, please call me Andrew." "Thank you. Andrew, I must say it's rare for someone to surprise me, but you did. After spending an hour talking with you, your answers have been impressive and thoughtful. Your way of thinking leads me to believe we could train you to be the kind of analyst we need to make informed decisions. We buy and sell companies and handle mergers. I would like to offer you a junior analyst position in our mergers and acquisitions team with a starting salary of $96,280 per year." I was thrilled and accepted the offer right away. My salary combined with Mary Beth's gave us a total of $184,780 a year. It was a great start to a life with the most wonderful person, doing the kind of work I had always wanted. Life felt perfect. Mary Beth and I picked our first house carefully, dreaming of a larger, nicer home in the future. I would have been happy anywhere with her, but I wanted to give her the best I could. I became Don's trusted helper at work. Our department, mergers and acquisitions, had 4 parts. Don was a vice president in charge of forecasting, and I was his only assistant. Bill Spencer worked as vice president of evaluating prospects with 10 accountants on his team. Terry Whiteside led the legal department, managing a large group of legal staff. Henry Stubblefield was in charge of negotiations and had 7 skilled deal makers working for him. Don mentioned there were 2 other vice presidents in the company, but they were not involved in my department. I learned that the person I replaced had made many poor decisions, and I hoped to do better. Don told me he had a personal success rate of 60%. The company was doing well, but Don mentioned that the CEO, Ben Higgins, wanted him to find even better opportunities. Don said it would likely take me a year to understand everything before I could suggest any good ideas for mergers or investments. It impressed me that they were thinking about long-term potential. I realized I needed to expand my analysis. I couldn't just look at immediate opportunities. I had to think about how situations might change and what could become smart investments. I also noticed my work computer was just a standard model and not very powerful. I told Don that to do my best work, I needed a high-performance model like the ones I had in college. Don agreed and let me order what I needed. I selected the model, specifications, and the best price to buy it. 10 days later, my new system was set up, complete with 4 large monitors. I began gathering as much online information as I could to find companies for possible mergers or additional income opportunities. 2 weeks later, I gave Don a list of 6 companies to consider. He laughed at my eagerness. "Andrew, there's no way you could have come up with one solid idea in such a short time, let alone 6. He chuckled as he looked at the paper I handed him. "Where's your research, son? All I see here is a list of 6 names. If there was anything important about these companies you just gave me, there should be plenty of documents to support your research on each one. This feels like a long shot. Are you serious?" "No, sir, I promise. These are my best recommendations. I picked one for a merger and the other 5 are planned for acquisition. Once they are bought, you can either break them up and sell them for a profit, or keep them for a while to earn a return. They are good choices either way." Don Sharp looked at me with a smirk. "Andrew, you're young and eager. I understand you want to impress me and show that you have something to add. But I can say that there's no way you can reach such conclusions in the short time you've been at Higgins Investments, Inc., especially when you have nothing to back up your suggestions. How can you expect me to take you seriously when you come to me with this?" I felt hurt by his judgment of my hard work, and it showed. Don, I know you don't know me well, so trust may be hard for you to find. Could I ask a favor? Sure. What is it? Please don't throw that list away. Keep it and track the progress of each of those companies over the next few weeks. I believe you might be surprised. You hired me because you thought I had some natural skill. I've used that skill, and these seem to be the best chances right now. No, I don't have lots of paperwork, but I've thought through these names carefully. Are you serious? You want me to spend time watching you guess? Yes, sir, if that's how you see what I do. I call it a thoughtful analysis. You've really annoyed me. I'm going to check your names with my team in mergers and acquisitions. I'll ask them to look into each one and tell me everything about them. I'll let them know these are tips I want fully examined. If, after reviewing their information, I find at least 2 of the 6 are good options, you can keep your job. I normally would say even 1 is enough, but anyone can have a lucky day. If less than 2 are good, you're out of here. If 2 are worthy of our attention, you keep your job and I'll respect your instinct. If more than 2 work out, I'll make sure you get a raise. He laughed condescendingly and walked away. My job seemed uncertain even though I had worked hard for them. I didn't understand the situation. A week later, I was told to go to conference room 2010C for a surprise meeting at 10 a.m. I felt nervous because I couldn't find Don, and he wasn't answering my calls. I worried that I was going to be let go. I walked into the conference room at 9:55 and saw Don with 7 other well-dressed men around the table. The only open chair was at the end of the table, so I took that seat. There was a lot of talking when I entered, but it became very quiet as soon as I stepped in. 6 of the men had big stacks of papers in front of them. 1 man, besides Don, did not. Don got up. Right on time, Andrew. Thanks for coming in on such short notice. You're my boss, Don. If you ask me to be here, I will be. Exactly. Now let me get to the point. These gentlemen work in mergers and acquisitions like we do, but in a different area. Think of them as the ones who check the ideas we send them. Usually, they just approve the papers we give them for confirmation. Since we didn't give them anything for the 6 company names you provided, they had to gather the information themselves. They are here to decide if our recommendations are good. Bill Spencer is the head of their department. He was unhappy that we didn't check a company before recommending it. But luckily, they were not busy, so he had his team review our suggestions for practice. Remember, I said you would be out of a job unless 2 of those companies turned out to be good. I'm sorry, Andrew, but they are not just good. They are great. Bill wanted to meet the person who found 6 solid options without any backup. Bill Spencer added, "That's right, Andrew. I thought Don was giving us busy work to waste my time." I'm happy to say that each of these companies is a real find. Don tells me you didn't work with him on this and he gives you all the credit. I find that hard to believe. I think he wants to impress us after his last employee didn't do well. There's no way you found these names by chance. That's why we are here. Tell us, Andrew, if what Don said is true, how did you come up with these 6 opportunities for us to look at? The conference room was silent. I felt all the attention on me. I had to tell the truth. I spent about 16 hours a day for 2 weeks looking through many online articles, annual reports, and stock market information for my research. I used 4 large screens to show all the information at once, searching for good options for Higgins Investments. After my analysis, I found 12 potential candidates that seemed promising. I did more in-depth research on these 12 until I narrowed it down to 6 that stood out. It was a mix of intuition and careful review that led me to these choices. Everyone in the room burst into laughter. After a moment, Bill took charge again. I have to give you credit, Don. You promised us an interesting story, and I'll say this. As long as you keep finding great candidates like these, I don't mind how you do it, whether it's by throwing darts or some other unusual method. Keep your secrets if you want. But Don, we're going to have a meeting with our CEO, Ben Higgins, tomorrow to share this good news. And with that, the meeting ended. About an hour later, Don called me into his office. Andrew, I'm not sure how you do it, but I hope you have more ideas like this. I'm a man of my word and will request a 25% raise for you. The HR team will probably negotiate down to about 20%. If you keep this up, I'll continue to advocate for you. But I do have one request. Thank you, sir. What do you need from me? Work your 8 hours here in the office and don't work too late anymore. I don't want you to wear yourself out. It's fine, Don. Mary Beth and I will be getting married soon, but she won't move in with me until after the wedding. So right now, there's no one waiting for me at home. I thought I could put in extra hours now since I might not be able to later. You're a lucky man, Andrew. I met your fiancée when she visited you a few days ago. Many people will envy you at Higgins Investments. I'm grateful she chose me to be her partner. I hope I can make her as happy as she makes me. When Mary Beth and I got married in early December, we took a week-long cruise to the Caribbean for our honeymoon, hoping for warmer weather. She wished for a more expensive location like the Maldives, but I chose a more practical option. We had a lovely honeymoon and met many older couples who were celebrating their long-lasting marriages. They shared their advice and secrets for staying together for so many years. That year, we went to our first company Christmas party hosted by our CEO, Ben Higgins. It was held at his beautiful mansion. I had seen Mr. Higgins around the office and knew he met with my supervisor, Don Sharp, often. Mary Beth and I were surprised by how grand the mansion was. The decorations were lavish, and there was plenty of delicious food and drinks. Mr. Higgins made an effort to talk with everyone, including us. He kindly asked to dance with my lovely bride. Mary Beth was amazed by his friendly nature and thought he was a true gentleman, engaging her in interesting conversation. I felt a bit awkward in these social situations, so I mostly danced with Mary Beth during the slow songs, but we both enjoyed ourselves. We shared a table with Don and his wife Julie, and they were great company. Mary Beth and Julie quickly bonded and became good friends by the end of the night. 9 months later, we welcomed our daughter, Elizabeth Marie Stevenson, into our lives. She brought us so much joy. Mary Beth became an amazing mother, caring for Elizabeth with great love and attention. Our parents were very excited to help with their first grandchild, and we happily accepted their offers to babysit. Meanwhile, I got 2 raises at work, each one increasing my salary by 10%. Our company was doing really well, thanks to Ben Higgins taking Don's suggestions seriously. Don started sharing my ideas with Mr. Higgins, claiming they were better opportunities for growth. A year and a half later, we welcomed our son, Andrew Stevenson Jr., who looked just like me when I was a baby. We joined the Christmas parties at Mary Beth's school. These gatherings were usually potluck events where everyone brought their favorite holiday treats. They were much smaller than the parties at Higgins Investments, and I felt more at ease. I enjoyed chatting with her co-workers, who praised Mary Beth for her hard work. I couldn't have been prouder of her. However, Mary Beth always wanted to make sure we didn't miss any of the Higgins Christmas events because she loved mingling with the wealthy. Most of the board members were very wealthy, though not as rich as Ben. Some drove expensive sports cars to the Christmas parties, while others arrived in older cars that they had carefully restored. To me, a car was just a car, but not to Mary Beth. She pointed out fancy cars like the Lamborghini, the Aston Martin, and the Bugatti that some board members drove. Her favorite was the Bugatti Chiron, which she said was the least expensive at a price of $8 million. I love Mary Beth and want her to have what she wants, but I couldn't understand why we would need a car that costs almost 6 times the value of our home. She sometimes found my practical thinking frustrating. Then, unexpectedly, we learned we were going to have another baby. This pregnancy was harder on her than the others. She was very strong, and with my support, we welcomed our daughter Daisy May, who joined her brother and sister. We both agreed that 3 kids were enough, and Mary Beth convinced me to have a vasectomy. She promised that without the worry of another pregnancy, our relationship would improve. I trusted her and went through with the procedure. I was a bit sore for a week, but everything turned out well. True to her word, our connection grew stronger. I never regretted my decision, and we were happy as a family of 5. In the following years, I noticed at the Higgins Christmas parties that our CEO, Ben Higgins, danced only a few times with his wife and spent a lot of time dancing with the wife of one of the board members. Tonight, it was Julie, Don's wife, who got most of his attention. This confused me because Ben's wife was very nice. She was not a showstopper, but I had heard that she gave him 2 lovely children. I assumed I just didn't get some social cues. I began to notice a striking, dark-haired woman who was always near Mr. Higgins. She caught my eye when she looked at me during one of the parties. Though she was very beautiful, she didn't seem to be with any specific man. I saw her dance with a few board members, but she always stayed close to Mr. Higgins. I wondered if anyone else found this strange. Don? Who is that dark-haired woman who seems to be following Mr. Higgins all night? Doesn't that seem odd? Who? Andrew? You mean the one in the business suit? Yeah, her. I think she likes Mr. Higgins, but he doesn't seem to notice her. Don laughed. She's keeping a close eye on Ben. That's Kayla Feldman, his head of security. His head of security? She's very attractive, isn't she? Don't be misled by her looks, Andrew. People say she resembles Steffi Cohen, the famous bodybuilder, but she's tougher than she seems. She was a commander in the Israeli Defense Forces and is known as the Iron Lady. Ben met her at an event years ago and got her to work for him. As a billionaire, he has to be careful even during Christmas parties at his home. Well, I'm not sure what it means, but a little while ago, she looked at me for a few minutes. It felt uncomfortable. She had a confused look on her face. Now I'm wondering if she sees me as a possible threat to Ben. Believe me, Andrew, you don't want to upset her. I've seen videos of her in combat training. She's quick and clever. Very few could match her skills. But she knows everyone here tonight. She has a record on all of us. Very little goes unnoticed by her. Ben is lucky to have her. I tried to spend as much time with our kids as their mother Liz did, but Andy and Daisy always seemed to prefer her company. This was a bit disappointing for me, but I learned that kids often feel a stronger bond with their mothers. After all, she cared for them in ways I couldn't. How can a father compete with that? I also noticed that at the yearly Higgins Christmas parties, Mr. Higgins danced more frequently with Mary Beth. She enjoyed the attention from a successful man and assured me I had nothing to worry about. After feeling exhausted from the parties each year, I believed her completely. My trust was strong, and it went both ways. She never worried that I would be interested in the many attractive women who worked at Higgins. After being with Higgins Investments for 15 years, Don mentioned he might retire soon. He and Ben discussed ways to capture my thought processes that helped our company do so well. They hired an AI expert to follow me for 2 weeks, interview me, and create a system that gathered the same information I reviewed weekly for dozens of companies. However, what he couldn't replicate was my ability to understand and analyze that information. I was asked to explain exactly how I identified the right names with such accuracy. I would explain how I got the ideas in my head by talking about Kirlian photography. This is where objects glow when they are in an electric field, which is called a Kirlian aura. I could see a glow around people and things that looked like those Kirlian images. When I thought about the companies I was considering, I saw a bright aura around the dark green names of the ones my mind said were the best choices for investment. The programmer was frustrated. He raised his hands in defeat because he couldn't turn the images in my head into a program. He thought I was trying to confuse him on purpose. That wasn't true. I compared it to a person who can see trying to describe colorful pictures to someone who has never seen. After a lot of effort, the project was given up as a waste of time. 4 years later, I was earning about $275,000 a year, not counting the $25,000 Christmas bonuses. Mary Beth and I moved our family into a bigger house with more comforts. We weren't poor, but it was close since she liked to spend money more than I did. Our children, Liz, Andy, and Daisy, always wore the latest trendy clothes. Mary Beth loved her expensive dresses, even though they weren't needed for her work. One Christmas, she bought me an expensive suit, but I only wore it twice, once for a wedding and once for a funeral. I felt out of place wearing it often at work. She was not happy about this, but eventually understood that I tended to stick to my routines, so she let it go. At the next Higgins Investments Christmas party, our CEO, Ben Higgins, spent more time dancing with Mary Beth than I did. She enjoyed the attention from someone so important and said it would have been rude to say no. After all, he was her boss's boss and had a big say in my job and pay. It bothered me that he focused on her so much. On the way home, she tried to talk about the evening, but I could barely give her 5 words. She often knew when to stop talking with me. Later that night at home, she seemed very affectionate toward me. I had a feeling it wasn't just about me, and that bothered me. I told her I wasn't in the mood, watched TV for a while, and fell asleep on the couch. She was a bit upset for a couple of days, but we soon returned to our comfortable routine, like an old glove fitting a hand. There was no doubt that we were meant to be together and would never let anything come between us. Daisy, our daughter, looked just like her mother. Mary Beth, as the youngest, held on to her tightly and didn't want to let go. But time keeps moving. 18-year-old Daisy started college 600 miles away, sharing a dorm with another girl as she studied the arts. Liz had already graduated and married a nice young man named Derek Tremont, whom we both liked. Andy was in his junior year of college working towards his engineering degree. None of our kids showed any signs of mixing up senses, which is called synesthesia. Mary Beth and I were trying to adjust to a quieter home with no children. She missed the kids even more than I did. To be honest, I was looking forward to the freedom we now had without kids around. Mary Beth seemed to be trying to find her way through this change. The following year, we went to her company Christmas party, and I felt more relaxed than ever before. When I heard about the Higgins Investments party, I didn't mention it to Mary Beth. Instead, I planned a nice evening out with dinner and a show. We ended up at a nightclub where we danced together all night. Back home, we enjoyed the new freedom and ended the night in a way I would always remember. The next week, she asked me when the Higgins Investments party was. I told her we had missed it because I forgot. She was upset and scolded me for taking away her chance to mingle with important people. I told her I preferred to spend time with her over anyone else, but she didn't see it that way. She looked forward to that event every year. I apologized for my mistake, and soon we moved past it. The next year, Don Sharp announced he would retire from the company. I thought I would be the only one who wanted his job. Don was one of the board members and well off because of it. So I was shocked to learn that there were 4 other people hoping to take his place. I guessed it paid very well, though I didn't know the exact amount. I asked Don if we could talk in his office. "Hey, Andrew, what can I do for you today?" All these years we've been honest with each other because that's just how I am, right? Yes, Andrew. That's one thing I really appreciate about working with you. You always say what you think. I can't imagine having a more straightforward colleague. Then you know what I'm going to ask. What's going on, Don? I thought you were preparing me to take over when you stepped down. Did I not meet your expectations while working with you? Meet? You must be joking. You've gone beyond anything I could have imagined. You are the best forecaster I've ever known. If that's the case, then why are 4 others being considered for your position? Why am I not the obvious choice? Does anyone really think they can choose better investment options than I can? Of course not, Andrew. I'm just as confused as you are about this. If any of those 4 from mergers and acquisitions were chosen to take my place, they would struggle without your support, just as you have supported me. You have been a huge part of my success, and I am grateful for it. I'm being completely honest with you. I've told Ben how skilled you are. I've done all I can to get you raises and bonuses. I'm fully behind you. Nobody deserves this promotion more than you do. It just doesn't make sense, Don. I agree. The only reason I can think of is money. How so? I won't tell you my exact salary, but let's just say I earn a lot more than you each year. The candidates for my job earn even less than you. One idea I have is that the company wants to save money by hiring someone who costs less to replace me and keeping you in your position. Your salary is already at its max. The new hire has a long way to go to catch up to you. If Ben places a lower-paid person above you, and you continue to provide your excellent insights like you have for me, the company could save a lot by avoiding matching my salary. However, with the new title as Director of Investment Recommendations, the replacement would have a respected position that comes with a higher pay, which is puzzling. Ben isn't sharing his thoughts on this. I've made it clear to him that not promoting you would be a huge mistake for the company, but it's not my choice to make. Thank you for being honest with me, Don. Do you think there's anything I've done that could make Mr. Higgins view me as unfit for your job? That's the problem. I've praised you since the day you first showed me how capable you are. I've never said anything good about any of those other candidates to Ben. The only other idea I have is that one of the accountants might be Bill Spencer's son. He has been trying for years to find a way to get his son a place on the board. If he had something against Ben, maybe some sort of secret, he might try to use that to pressure Ben into picking his son as my replacement. It feels like hard work doesn't pay off anymore, Don. I would never blackmail anyone to get what I want. It seems like honesty and effort aren't valued these days. Don't give up, Andrew. Ben will interview each of you one by one in his office 1 or 2 weeks before the Christmas party. He said he wants to announce the person chosen for promotion that night. Positions like this are very rare in our company. Just being considered means you're already doing well. Thanks, Don. You have always been honest with me, and I really appreciate it. To be honest, without bragging, I believe I am the best person prepared to take over for you. But I am really nervous about the Christmas party. If someone else is named as your replacement instead of me, I would be so embarrassed and wouldn't want to be there. Large social gatherings are already hard for me, and thinking about this just makes me more anxious. I won't push you, Andrew, and I know I can't tell you what to do, but I think it would be a mistake to skip the party. It would really embarrass Ben to announce you as my replacement if you didn't even show up for the occasion. Just hold off on any big decisions for now. Wait until after your talk with Ben. You might feel better about what could happen after that. You always give good advice, Don. Thank you. That's exactly what I'll do. 3 days later, I found myself in the CEO's office. There were snacks and drinks available, which created a nice and relaxed vibe. His assistant asked if I needed anything else, and she promised to get it for me. I thanked her and complimented her for the spread. After some casual chat, Ben got right to the point. Andrew, Don tells me you have a special talent for picking the best opportunities. He has even said that you are a big reason for our company's success since you started here. Don has been a great boss and a kind mentor. I've learned a lot under his guidance. I know he will be missed when he retires. The way you two support each other makes me think, Andrew. It seems clear to me that Don wants you to succeed him rather than anyone else being considered. I'm concerned that you might be trying to manipulate him in some way. His strong connection to you is puzzling. I would never do that. I have nothing to use against him. As I mentioned, he's been a great boss and gave me the chance to work for you. He said something similar when I asked him about you. What worries me is how you dismissed our software developer when he tried to create a program for those special ideas you claim to have. I don't understand how that works, and when things are unclear, I tend to avoid them. If I don't understand something, it's hard for me to believe in it. You and Don want me to risk my whole company based on these visions of yours. Honestly, I have never encountered anything like this, and it's difficult for me to take a big risk on something that feels uncertain. The other candidates can provide solid proof, data, and documentation to support their ideas, whereas you have a less clear approach. I promise you, I didn't dismiss the software developer. I'm sorry I can't explain what I see in my mind in a clear way. If I could, I would create the software myself and sell it, but I've learned to trust my vision. Trust is indeed important. I've come to trust Don, and that's helped our company succeed. Don believes in you, but you haven't had the chance to earn my trust yet. To me, trust is essential. Without it, everything else can fall apart. Trust brings loyalty. I want to trust you, Andrew, and I need to. Otherwise, I couldn't place you in such a significant role in this company. Do you understand my situation? Not really, sir. I've never shared information about the companies I've recommended to Don. I've always been completely loyal to Higgins Investments. I'm not aware of any negative feedback regarding my choices over the years. I can't speak to that, Andrew. Don has always been our spokesperson for opportunities. How do I know that what he's presented isn't mostly his influence? The other candidates can show me clear examples of their work while you can't. Without that, you'll need to do something remarkable to earn my trust in your loyalty. What can I do, sir? What would you consider proof of my loyalty? That's a good question. Let me explain, Andrew. When I talk about loyalty, I mean full loyalty to me. If I say something, it should happen, no questions asked. For instance, if I were to give you a direction, I'd expect you to follow it without hesitation. However, I want to make it clear that I would never ask you for anything inappropriate. I want to share something important with you. You need to trust and believe in me to follow my requests without questioning. If you can earn that trust and show your loyalty, then the job will be yours. This opportunity could change your life and your family's life, Andrew. I'm not sure what you earn now, but if you take Don's position, you would start with a salary of $1 million a year and a spot on the board. That spot comes with some great benefits, but I won't go into detail now. Just know this is a serious matter. You could retire one day as a multi-millionaire like Don. I was amazed. I had no idea how much Don was making, and here I was being considered for his position. I am very loyal, sir. I am ready to prove myself. I'm glad to hear that, Andrew. That's great news. I will test your loyalty when you least expect it. If you pass, the job is yours. Thank you. I promise I won't let you down. Stop calling me sir. Just call me Ben. I believe we have a great future ahead of us. Yes, Ben. Thank you. The night of the party had finally come. I felt nervous all week, expecting a difficult task from Ben to prove my loyalty. Even if it meant doing some paperwork on my recommendations, I would have done whatever it took. But nothing unusual happened that week. I started to think that maybe Ben was just trying to motivate me to stay focused, and I was ready for that. Then I was caught off guard at home when Mary Beth said, "I've rented you a tuxedo for the Higgins Christmas party next Saturday night." A tuxedo? Next Saturday? How did you know about the party? I hadn't even told you when it is. I usually wear a suit. She laughed at my confusion. Well, if you really want to know, Ben Higgins called me today. He and I had a good chat about you and your future at the company. He wanted to make sure we both attended the Christmas party this year, since we missed it last year. Why would he call you instead of telling me himself? That's weird. Why not just talk to me directly? He's a very thoughtful man, Andrew. I told him I wouldn't share the details of our talk, but when I recommend you go to the party and wear a tuxedo, don't you think that means something? What do you mean you promised him? Are you keeping secrets from me that involve my boss? If you know something, Mary Beth, please tell me. I'm your husband. I can't, dear. I gave him my word, and I plan to keep it. If I say more, I'll spill the beans. Did you know that Ben is going to share the promotion news at the party? I can't wait, she said with excitement. Ben? You call him Ben? I've worked for him for years, and I just found out today that I should call him that, I replied, feeling frustrated. Besides, he mentioned that he hasn't made a final choice yet. He wants to see how I handle things first. Who knows what that means? Think of it this way. This is a major chance for you. Whatever he asks you to do, show him you are the right person for the job and it will be yours. That's what he told me. As I put on my rented tuxedo, Mary Beth came out of the bathroom and joined me in the bedroom. What's going on? Why did you change your look? You know I love you just the way you are. Why tonight? Oh, come on, Andrew. It's only for now. I still remember what you like. I bought a whole new outfit for the party. I want to look the part of the wife of the top candidate replacing Don Sharp. The new outfit is a bit too snug, so I trimmed things a bit. I wanted it to look its best. I feel good in my new undergarments, and I hope you will too. New outfit? Is that the expensive dress you looked at before that cost a fortune? Yes, it is, dear. Thanks for noticing. I can't wait for you to see it. When you tried it on before, you showed a lot of skin. That dress was too revealing. I told you not to buy something like that. Are you trying to make me uncomfortable in front of my co-workers? Her mood shifted from happy to annoyed. Who do you think you are judging how I dress? You'd probably show up in jeans and a t-shirt if it weren't for me. You'd be the laughingstock if it weren't for how I help you. You have no fashion sense, Andrew. Now finish getting ready while I dress. Tonight we will look like a powerful couple. A powerful couple? How about a lady of the night and her manager? If I can't convince you to wear something nice, maybe we shouldn't go to the party tonight. I could think of a different place for us to go where I wouldn't feel awkward being with you. How can you say something like that to me? Do you really think I'm that kind of person? This is your autism talking, Andrew. Let's be honest, you're not the greatest at understanding and handling social situations. You need to trust that everything I wear, say, and do tonight is to help us build our future together. No one will be prouder of her husband tonight than me when Ben announces the promotion. Now get dressed in your tux and let's get going. Got it? She challenged me to argue. Even though I didn't like it, she was right. She's always been much better at understanding social situations than I could ever be. I guess I have to step up and see how this plays out. She speaks like she knows I'll get the promotion, but she can't say it out loud. Once we're at the party, if I feel too uneasy about how others look at her, I'll just take her home early. I drove us to the Christmas party at Ben Higgins' house in our black Volvo XC90 hybrid. It may not be as flashy as other cars, but it got us there safely. The guard at the entrance asked to see our invitation and then let us through. We drove up to the front of the mansion, and the valet took my keys and parked our car. Inside, the coat attendant and security welcomed us warmly and asked for our phones. May I ask why? Of course, sir. Last year a guest took some unwanted photos with their phone. We're not sure if they were for personal use or something more serious. We work hard to keep everyone at the event safe and private. To help with that, Wendy will check your coats and phones and you'll get them back when you leave. If you need to make a call for any reason, just go to a staff member and they will give you a general phone to use. We nodded and agreed. Then we were treated like special guests. The 6 board members and their wives welcomed us warmly, making me feel better. All the signs pointed to me being announced as Don's successor. I met Robert Salmon and his lovely wife Trudy for the first time. When I say lovely, I mean truly impressive. I learned Robert is a vice president of accounts receivable. That's probably why I had never met him before. When he shook my hand, it felt like I was greeting a strong man. He was clearly a sturdy guy. Ben came over to us after we arrived. Every man in the room seemed to be paying attention to Mary Beth, and she enjoyed all the focus. I didn't really like it, to be honest. Ben greeted both of us and soon took my wife away for her first dance of the evening. About an hour later, Ben asked the DJ to get everyone's attention. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, guests and clients of Higgins Investments. We've had a fantastic year, largely thanks to our outgoing VP, Don Sharp. Let's all thank Don for his dedication and many years of loyal service alongside his wonderful wife, Julie. She has helped the company with her many skills as well. Don, we wish you and Julie all the best as you enjoy your retirement. I have another announcement as well. We are happy to welcome Andrew Stevenson into his new role, stepping into Don's big shoes. Andrew, we look forward to great things from you and your lovely wife, Mary Beth. Both announcements received loud applause. The men around me shook my hand with excitement. I would have liked to hug my wife, but she was far away with Ben. She smiled and waved at me. Ben then encouraged everyone to enjoy the celebration. VP Robert Salmon and his wife Trudy suddenly appeared beside me. He shook my hand again, and Trudy gave me a cheerful hug. As the senior board member, Andrew, I am pleased to welcome you and your wife to the Higgins Investments family. You're being welcomed into a special group tonight. It's truly an honor. I own that Lamborghini Veneno Roadster you might have seen. Before long, you'll be driving something even nicer than the Volvo you came in. Your new salary will place you in a top tier. Please follow us. Ben would like to speak with you briefly in a room upstairs at the end of the hall. I nodded and followed them up the grand staircase. It was quite easy to follow behind his lovely wife in her stylish dress. A security guard stood outside a door and opened it for us, closing it behind us. I took in the surroundings, noticing that the room was quite spacious with a large bed on one side and a small seating area at the foot. On one wall there was a large mirror, and opposite the entrance, behind thick curtains, was a small window. I could just make out the room through a small gap in the heavy curtains. There were 2 comfy chairs placed here and there, and a bathroom door was open for convenience. The carpet was a soft red, and underneath it was thick padding. A small home theater system rested on a nice dresser, but it wasn't being used right now. The lighting in the room was soft, and I noticed a dimmer switch on the wall near the door. Robert and Trudy both smiled warmly at me. I'm sorry, Andrew. Ben must be running late, Trudy said. He'll be here soon, I promise. I simply smiled and nodded. Why don't you take a seat on this big couch and keep me company while we wait? I must admit that my high heels are a bit uncomfortable, Trudy said as she kicked off her shoes. Thanks, Trudy, but I should stretch my legs. That's fine, Andrew, but please just call me Trudy. When you join our family, we all use first names. Thank you, Trudy. I'll remember that. Just then, Ben and Mary Beth came into the room together, and the guard quietly closed the door behind them. I apologize for being late, Andrew. I was chatting with Mary Beth here, and we lost track of time. She knows everything, and she's fully on board. Robert, have you talked to Andrew yet? No, Ben. You wanted to make sure everything was clear. You're right. Let's get started, shall we? Andrew, with your promotion, you and Mary Beth are now part of our special corporate group. At Higgins Investments, we treat our board members and their families like family. We want you to feel at ease to say and do anything around us as you would with your own family. We believe in working together for everyone's benefit. How does that sound? That sounds great to me. Good. Mary Beth agrees as well, Ben added, smiling at her. She looked happy but said nothing. If you remember our earlier discussion in my office, I mentioned testing your loyalty. Yes, I remember you saying that, but you weren't sure what it meant. That's right. Well, here's how it is. Your new yearly salary starts at $1 million, just as I mentioned. If you keep performing well, as Don said you would, that amount will keep increasing. Think of it like sharing profits. What do you think of that? I'm honored that you have such confidence in me, sir. Well, it's not just about your work, Andrew. As I mentioned before, we're all part of a close family, a group that includes everyone equally. Mary Beth and Trudy are just as important to this family as you and I are. There are 7 wives in total, those of the 6 board members and my wife included. Earlier I talked about sharing, and this sharing also applies to the wives. I own a private island where we have our company board meetings 3 times a year. These meetings include a mix of work and relaxation. We go for a 3-day weekend in January, a full week in June, and another 3-day weekend in November. During these meetings, the 7 wives participate in a unique tradition. The idea is that everyone is involved and no one is left out. To keep things fair, the women pick a name at random to determine their partner for that time, but they can't pick their own husband or choose the same person twice in a row. Julie, who is Don's wife, has been helping Mary Beth for nearly a year now, guiding her and making sure she is comfortable with this arrangement. Julie knew that if Mary Beth wasn't fully on board, your promotion wouldn't have been offered to you. Please don't be upset with Mary Beth. She had to keep this a secret to make sure everything was clear and agreed upon before telling you. In a way, Andrew, you have your wife to thank for your promotion, as it wouldn't have happened without her support. She's truly remarkable. I stood there, shocked, as he continued. Andrew, tonight, Mary Beth and I will be spending some time together in the next room. There's a one-way mirror between the rooms, and when I activate it, you'll be able to see everything that happens. This is a test of your loyalty, Andrew. I'll be with Mary Beth tonight and into the morning. By noon tomorrow, I'll return her to you, having spent time with her, but she'll be unharmed. She has assured me that she is fully committed to this arrangement. Don't think this is only about me, though. You won't be left out either. Trudy, who is well liked by the other board members, will be spending time with you tonight. She's very experienced in making sure everyone feels satisfied and relaxed. Do you have any questions before we start? Don and Julie? I asked. Yes, they have both been caring members of our family. Julie seems very passionate, just like Trudy. Now that Don is leaving, he won't have access to our wives anymore. That's why Julie has been asked to help find someone to take over for her. Don mentioned that his only regret about retiring now is missing out on Mary Beth's cooking. Ben, can I talk to my wife in private for a moment? I asked, feeling anxious. Oh, but I want to hear what you have to say, Andrew. Remember, we don't keep secrets from each other. If you have something to say to her, please say it here now. We are all family. My mind was swirling with anger, embarrassment, and confusion. Did Mary Beth really agree to all of this without telling me? Was it true? I took a deep breath to calm down, trying to stop myself from saying something I might regret. I looked directly into my wife's eyes. Mary Beth, is what he said true? Did you agree to this without discussing it with me first? As he mentioned, I couldn't share the details. I wanted to, but I felt it might ruin things. You know, I had relationships before we met. Participating in this isn't very frightening for me as a woman. I'm more worried about how you might feel. Worried about me? Of course, it will affect me. I don't want you to be part of this, Mary Beth, even if it means I might lose out on the promotion. Please, let's talk about it first. Didn't you hear what he said? $1 million every year? You have worked hard your whole life. Now it's time to enjoy the rewards. We could buy that car I've wanted for so long, and I've even found the perfect ring for our next anniversary. This is such an exciting time for us. You can't deny what we could do with that money. We're partners, remember? With the raise and all the benefits from your new job, we can finally do what we want. This makes perfect sense. I believe this won't hurt our marriage at all. We will handle it just like we have since day one. We are a strong couple. I used to believe that was true, Mary Beth, but now I'm not so sure. Honey, you seem too focused on planning our financial future to notice that our present is falling apart. If you go through with this, I'm afraid our marriage might not make it. I can't share you with other people, as he just said. You might be confusing my difficulties with social situations for a lack of understanding of feelings. Hasn't your sister Marnie taught you anything? She is the most caring person I know. People like me find social situations tough, but when it comes to feelings, your sister and I are much more in tune than you realize. You know, my way of thinking is more straightforward than yours. While you see many options, I see only right or wrong. My views have always been clear to me. 2 + 2 = 4. Mary Beth, always. You think that because 4 is part of 5, that makes 5 correct too. But my heart and soul equal 2, your heart and soul equal 2, together our 2 + 2 = 4. Now you want to add something else to our 4, turning it into 5. But 2 + 2 will never be 5, Mary Beth, no matter how much you wish it could be. My clear view of our relationship has changed. After tonight, we can never be just 4 again. 5 will always change my view of you. 5 is not right for us, Mary Beth. I cannot accept 5. I'm sorry you were not satisfied with 4. You have chosen to step away from your promises, and now I no longer want to be married to you. Don't be silly, sweetheart. Our marriage is as strong as a rock. I'm not going anywhere, and neither are you. Have you forgotten? Trudy is going to offer you experiences you've only dreamed about. Once I've shared a bed with Ben, who has much more experience than us, I might be able to teach you new things. This will be good for us, honey, not bad. Don't you see? Trust me. No, I don't see. Trust takes time to build, but when it's lost, it's gone in a flash. I'm telling you now that I don't want you to do this, Mary Beth. If you do, I won't be able to forgive you. This will come between us. I mean it. The choices you make shape who you are and what happens next. You know him better than we do, Mary Beth. Would he really end your marriage? Ben asked. I don't want any divorces. It disrupts everything. After Ben's question, Mary Beth desperately tried to make me understand. You might think this way right now, Andrew, but I know you better than you know yourself. My sister Marnie has always forgiven my mistakes, and you've done the same since we met. That's the nature of special people like you. Holding grudges isn't part of how you express feelings. Once Trudy shows you what she can offer, you'll forget about this, I promise. Think of it as starting a new adventure. Marnie didn't choose to be your sister. She was born into your family. Even if you became a very bad person, you would still be her sister. I chose you as my wife because I believed you shared my commitment to our marriage. If you break that commitment tonight, I can end our marriage through divorce. I have expressed everything as clearly as I can, Mary Beth. If you go ahead with this, you can find others to meet your needs, because you won't be with me again. I promise you that. Her eyes filled with tears at my strong words of sadness and resolve. You say that now, Andrew, but you will forgive me and everything will go back to normal. Just wait until you've had a long night with Trudy. That will never happen. Think what you like. Goodbye, Mary Beth. I feel like I've already lost you. My love for you is fading. With tears falling, she moved to hug me, but I stepped back. Then, in frustration, she said, Come on, Ben, don't let Andrew ruin our night. He'll change his mind once Trudy has her way with him. That's right, Ben replied. No man can ever resist Trudy. Andrew will be no different. Trust me. They both laughed and left the room. Robert left after them, and the guards securely locked the door behind them. I rushed to the door and tried to open it, but it was locked tight. I called for him to open it, but no one paid attention. I was stuck. I heard another door close, and the mirror turned into a one-way glance. I could see into their room, but they couldn't see into ours. Ben stood next to Mary Beth and kissed her deeply. She eagerly kissed him back. I closed the curtains in disgust, not wanting to see what was happening. I had almost forgotten that Trudy was still here with me. It's probably just as well, she said with a smirk as I shut out the view. We'll have our own fun in here. Maybe they should take notes from us, she laughed. What fun? I asked, confused. Trudy lifted her dress over her head and let it fall to the floor next to her purse. She stood before me, inviting attention. She was wearing just a black garter belt and stockings. Her movements were attention-grabbing as she swayed her hips to keep me focused on her. Convinced she had my full attention, she danced to the music she started playing on the home theater system. The lively rhythm matched her moves. Trudy placed her hands on my shoulders and guided me to a chair, pushing me gently into a seated position. She began moving in a way that was meant to entice me, but my thoughts were elsewhere. I couldn't stop thinking about Mary Beth and what was happening with Ben in the next room. The pain of her actions cut deep, and I knew I wanted no part in this lifestyle, no matter how it was framed. Trudy, you're a beautiful woman, there's no denying that, I said, trying to remain calm. But I'm still married, even if things are falling apart next door. I can't do this. Please, I respectfully ask you to leave and take care of your husband. I'm sure he would rather you be with him right now. She smiled and shook her head. Oh, Andrew, you don't get it, do you? My husband loves hearing about what I do with other men. It makes things even better between us. But right now, this is all about you. And trust me, you're going to be glad you're here. She intensified her movements, turning to face me with a suggestive look. She tried to get closer, pressing herself against me, but I remained still. When she leaned in to kiss me, I quickly turned my head so her kiss landed on my cheek instead. "I've asked you to stop, Trudy," I said firmly. "Please, just leave." She laughed softly, ignoring my words. "Who are you trying to fool? I can tell what's happening, Andrew. You're no different from anyone else. You can't resist me, and I know it." Her tone grew more insistent, and she spoke as if this was a game she was used to winning. Hearing her mention my wife made me feel a wave of anger. The thought of Mary Beth's betrayal drained any reaction I might have had. I knew I had to put an end to this before it went any further. I didn't believe in violence, and I wasn't about to raise my hand in anger, but I needed a plan, something that would stop this situation from spiraling out of control. In that moment, I decided that I could use a little deception of my own, just as others had done to me. It was time to outthink this situation and bring it to an end. I imagined myself as an actor, playing a part. It felt right. I started my talk. "This is not going to work, Trudy, at least not like this," I said firmly. "It seems that Mary Beth didn't share what really interests me because she feels shy about it." Trudy answered, "I don't know what just happened, but I can see that you're not as interested anymore. So your wife was hiding something from me, huh? That makes sense. Sometimes women keep their best secrets to have an advantage with their partners. Don't worry about me, Andrew. I'm with Robert, and I'm not a threat to your marriage. If you keep acting this way, Trudy, you won't get anywhere with me. I promise you that. Well, if you tell your partner what you really enjoy, I swear I'll make it happen in ways you've never imagined," she said confidently. "Honestly, Mary Beth prefers I don't talk about what excites me the most and keeps me going all night. Come on, you can share it with me. I'll be the best you've ever had, and I promise we won't tell her how we used your secret," she insisted. "Okay, Trudy, but it might surprise you. She says it takes a special kind of woman to really know what makes me excited." "Enough, Andrew! Just tell me!" "Okay, but don't say I didn't warn you. She says I'm a bit different from other men when it comes to enjoyment. When you're pushy like this, it actually turns me off. I like to feel in control in those moments. At home, I like to make everything just right. The sight of my partner feeling completely open and free to trust me is what truly excites me. When I take action, I always make sure that we both enjoy ourselves. Even though I'm nervous about being with someone new like you, that's all I can think about. Have you ever tried something like that before, Trudy? I know it might be asking a lot if you haven't." Trudy laughed loudly and replied, "Is that all? Oh, honey, I'm practically a pro at this. I usually like to be the one in charge, but I see where you're coming from. The whole scene is about being in control. If that's what you want, I can help with that. But I don't think we have any ropes here." "That's okay, Trudy. I was a Boy Scout, and their motto is, 'Be prepared.' I always carry a pocket knife. I can just cut the sheet into strips and make it work." "They'll be soft on your skin, but still strong enough to hold you in place," Trudy teased. "Would you really ruin one of Ben's bed sheets?" I asked, trying to lighten the mood. "Think about it," she replied with a grin. "After tonight, I'll be making $1 million a year. I can afford to replace a sheet or two, though I'm sure Ben wouldn't mind donating them for our cause." I played along. "You're right. Let's get started. You cut and I'll rip the strips. You seem pretty excited about this." She laughed. "I am. The idea of being completely at your mercy is thrilling. Is that what you want?" "Exactly," I said, keeping the tone light, though my mind was racing. We began tearing strips of cloth from the sheet. Trudy giggled as we worked. Then I gave her some instructions, still keeping the conversation casual. "By the way, it's not a big deal, but it would help." "What's that?" she asked. "I noticed you're not wearing anything under your dress. Was that for my benefit?" She laughed again. "I skipped it on purpose. Why do you ask?" "It's just something I usually do with Mary Beth. She sometimes keeps a dress or her underwear on, and I paused, making the moment seem more playful. "Well, never mind. Let's just say it's a habit." Trudy smirked. "I see. Do you want me to put the dress back on so you can have your fun?" "Sure, why not?" I replied, keeping my voice steady. She wiggled back into the dress and I got her into position. I blindfolded her and tied her hands and feet using what I remembered from my time in Scouts. It was secure enough to keep her in place, and she seemed excited by the game. I made sure she was comfortable, then gently put a gag in her mouth. It was more of a light-hearted gesture than anything serious, but it kept her quiet. With everything set, I turned up the music to mask any sounds. I glanced through the two-way mirror into the next room where Mary Beth was with Ben. The sight of them together filled me with anger, and I could feel it building inside me. I took a deep breath, trying to focus, but the betrayal was hard to ignore. I needed to find a way out. The room felt completely soundproof with thick walls that made it hard to escape. It seemed like the walls might even have been doubled up with heavy insulation, so breaking through wasn't an option. As I looked around for an escape route, I spotted Trudy's shiny purse on the floor under the chair. I opened it and found her phone. This gave me an idea. I realized the only phones likely taken tonight were mine and Mary Beth's. I had to act quickly. I held Trudy's phone up to the window and started recording what was happening in the next room. Mary Beth was still engaged with someone, but then they moved to another activity. It was all captured on the phone. After a few minutes, I stopped the recording and sent a copy to my secure cloud account where I kept important photos and documents safe. Once I confirmed the upload was successful, I deleted the recording from Trudy's phone and removed all evidence of my actions. This way, I could have proof later if I needed it. After making sure everything was cleared, I put her phone back in the purse and returned it to where it was. Trudy was starting to show her impatience. I hadn't spoken to her or made any physical contact yet. She tried to say something through her gag, but only muffled sounds came out. I didn't want her to panic too soon. I needed a little more time to think of my escape plan. I sat next to her on the bed and gently touched her face and hair, keeping it casual and non-intimate. "Trudy, I just realized I haven't showered yet today. I wouldn't want to make things uncomfortable. Can you hang on a bit longer while I freshen up? Let me cover you up to keep you warm while I get ready." She sighed softly through her gag, seeming to urge me to hurry. After taking care of her for now, I focused on finding a way to escape. The guard outside the door was a problem. The bathroom was small with no windows or other exits, so I turned my attention to the window. Unfortunately, it wouldn't budge, confirming Trudy's comment that it was securely locked. I looked for a way to open the window and found a screw holding it in place just under the latch. I didn't have the right screwdriver with me, but I did have a small blade on my knife that was narrow enough to fit the screw. I adjusted the knife's blade to give me more strength and slowly started to unscrew it. After some effort, I finally got it loose and could remove it. With the screw gone, I easily raised the window and peered out into the night. The window ledge was quite high, about 25 to 30 feet up. I noticed the roof was steep and covered in fireproof red tiles. It looked risky, but it seemed to be my only way out. I checked on Ben and my wife, who were still busy inside. I took off my bow tie and cummerbund since they weren't needed. My black shoes had a shiny surface that made them slippery, and I realized climbing the roof in those shoes would be dangerous. Even if I managed to climb, the sound of my shoes on the tiles would give me away, so I took off the shoes, tied their laces together, and hung them around my neck, knowing I would need them later. Luckily, it wasn't raining, just cold and dry. I carefully backed out of the window and sat on the ledge. I looked around and saw no one below, so I continued my escape. The window was part of a small structure above, which added to the building's design. I grabbed onto it to pull myself up and stood holding tightly to the frame before closing the window from outside. The roof was steep, but I climbed up to the highest point. There was nothing to hold on to, so I had to focus on keeping my balance. I stood at the peak and slowly made my way in the soft moonlight toward another part of the roof in the center of the house. From there, I looked for the best path to get away. I was very high up on top of a big mansion, with just a small sliver of the moon shining through the clouds. Then, I noticed a bright green glow around a dark spot at the edge of the roof about 200 feet away. I knew I had to head toward that spot, so I carefully walked along the cold tiles. My feet were freezing. When I got to my destination, I noticed a tree next to the house. It was about 10 feet taller than the roof where I stood. It looked like a fir or cedar tree, but it was only about 5 feet away from the edge of the roof. 5 feet might not seem like much, but if I missed, I would fall 30 feet to the ground. The tree was thinner at the top, and I wasn't sure it could hold me. I decided it was now or never. I'd rather take a chance than stay in a bad situation. I sat down and put my shoes back on to protect my feet. Then, with no other choice, I jumped and tried to grab the branches to stop my fall. The tree bent under my weight and I felt myself slipping down. I held on tightly to the trunk. I stopped just above the ground, about 4 feet up. I knew if I let go, I might get hurt, so I pushed away from the tree and released my grip. I landed hard but tried to cushion my fall by bending my knees. The tree bounced back into place, and I lay on the ground, my heart racing. A quick check showed scratches on my hands and one on my neck, but I didn't see any serious injuries. There didn't seem to be any broken bones, so I looked for my car. The tree was next to a carport with 9 cars parked inside. My black Volvo had a car in front and another behind it. Luckily, the car behind mine was a stunning, restored red 1965 Ford Mustang. I found it was unlocked. Older cars can be put in neutral without a key, unlike newer ones. I shifted the Mustang into neutral and pushed it back about 20 feet. What Ben and his team didn't know was that I kept a spare key fob hidden in a magnetic holder under my car, out of sight. I decided to keep it there after I saw the holder during a visit to the shop. Once I got the key, I opened my door, got in, and closed it quietly. Since my Volvo was a hybrid, it was silent as I backed up using just the electric motor. I drove over to the security gate. I was lucky again. There was a barrier arm that needed to be lifted to exit. The guard shack was empty but locked, so I couldn't raise the gate electronically. I checked the arm lever and found a manual release pin that could open it in case of a power issue. Once I drove past the open gate, I closed it behind me. Unnoticed, I drove away from the Higgins estate and into freedom. I hoped no one would realize I was gone until the next day, so I headed straight to my house. Once there, I quickly packed 2 suitcases with my clothes, laptop, important papers, and other personal items. I tossed my damaged tuxedo and shoes into a pile on the bedroom floor. Taking a pair of pliers, I cut my wedding ring in half and left it on the bed, wanting to make a clear point. After packing, I drove to my office at Higgins Investments. I wrote my resignation letter right away, signed and dated it, and placed it on Ben's desk, saying it was for personal reasons. I realized that keeping quiet about past issues could be a way to get back at Ben, or a chance to withdraw from Higgins Investments. But I knew this would impact all the employees, not just him. I would need to think about that after some rest. Before leaving, I moved most of our cash from our shared bank account into a new account in my name only, to make sure I still had access to the funds if needed. Not wanting to disturb any family or friends at this late hour, I found a low-cost motel on the highway and stayed there for the night. I was so tired that I slept well until my wake-up call brought me back to reality. It was Sunday morning, so I went back to the desk and paid cash for another night. I parked my car behind the building out of sight. Since my phone and coat were still at the Higgins mansion, no one, including my wife, could contact me. I thought about how they would react when they learned I had avoided any closeness with Trudy and had escaped my situation. I chuckled, wondering how upset Trudy might be and who found her. With my car missing from the driveway, Ben would have to figure out how to get Mary Beth home unless she decided to stay with him. I didn't care about that anymore. However, not having a phone was a hassle. I drove to a discount store and bought a burner phone so I could control who could reach me. Luckily, I had saved my contact list in the cloud. With my laptop and the motel's Wi-Fi password, I was able to access it. I also checked a video file I had recorded of Ben and my wife. It was just as disturbing to watch again. By lunchtime, I figured that a few people might be worrying about where I was. Ben had completely lost control of things. He might have thought he could use my job as a way to make me cooperate when he found me. But I doubt he would know about my resignation until Monday morning. My life had suddenly changed direction. Divorce was inevitable, but I also cared a lot about my job. I started working at Higgins Investments right after college, and now I couldn't expect a reference from Ben. I needed to look into new job options. Mary Beth still had her job as a social worker at the school, earning $95,500 a year. She could cover her own expenses with her salary, but she still relied on my income to manage the house payments every month. Now that I was without a job, I wouldn't be able to help with that expense, even if a judge instructed me to. I decided to call my parents. "Hi, Mom. Can you get Dad and put the phone on speaker so we can all talk?" "Sure, Andrew, hold on." "Okay, we're both here now. What's going on?" "I have some surprising news. Mary Beth has been with another man, my boss, Ben Higgins. I saw them together last night. I've packed a few things and left home. I'm at a motel right now, but I wanted you both to know what's happening in case Mary Beth calls looking for me. This is shocking. We're sorry to hear that, son. It's hard to believe she would do something like this. You must be feeling terrible. What are your plans? Well, I already took the first step and quit my job. I can't work there anymore after what happened. Mary Beth expects me to overlook it. I can't do that. Right now, I feel like I want a divorce. I don't want to see or talk to her for a while. Her betrayal hurts too much to deal with right now. How did this happen, son? Weren't you going to a party last night? Yes, it was at his house. I was in a locked room with a one-way mirror where I could have seen what was happening, but I didn't want to. I knew enough to understand what they did, and it's something I can never forget. I managed to get away and spent the night at a motel. I'll stay here tonight, too. If Mary Beth, the kids, or anyone else asks about me, could you tell them you don't know where I am? I don't want anyone to find out what I'm up to except for you two. Of course, Andrew. We're always here for you. We're so sorry this happened. Don't ever think this is your fault. You're a good husband. She seems to have lost her way, and it might be hard for her to come back from this. I'm not sure about being a good husband, but I did my best. I'm not telling the kids just yet. I can't stay at a motel forever. Would it be okay if I stayed with you both for a little while until I get back on my feet? Of course. Our home is your home. We'll start cleaning out your old room today. Just tell us what you need and we'll do our best to help. We care about you, son. I care about you both, too. Here's my new phone number since my old one was taken away. I'll talk to you later. Later, I picked up a hot meal from a nearby diner, which helped calm me down. The food was decent, and it gave me a chance to think about what to do next. Right now, I wanted to give Mary Beth some space after I dismissed her choices. I wanted her to feel a bit of the stress she caused me. She probably has my old phone now without knowing how to get in touch with me. Good. Back at the motel, I took an afternoon nap. I wasn't in a rush. I woke up at 3:30 p.m. to a call. No one else had that number. Hey, Andrew, my dad started. How are you doing? You woke me up from a nap, but I'm eager for any news. Okay, I just wanted to let you know that Mary Beth called asking if we had heard from you. Oh? Yes, she said there was a big misunderstanding at the party last night. She mentioned you saw her dancing with Mr. Higgins and thought it meant something different. She told us you left without saying anything and that no one has seen or heard from you since. She is really worried about you, and mentioned that your feelings might have played a part in your reaction. She asked us to let her know if we hear from you. How could she say that? She's not taking any responsibility for what happened last night, and is trying to use my feelings as an excuse. We didn't tell her we had heard from you. I just wanted you to know what she said. As you mentioned, she's denying that anything happened with your boss. She also said you just got a big promotion and a raise and she wants to celebrate with you. I'm sure she does. Wait until she finds out that I quit. I wonder how much she'll want to celebrate then. Your mother and I trust your judgment, son. Your room is ready whenever you want to use it. Thanks, Dad. I might bring my things over tomorrow after I check out. I appreciate you and Mom letting me stay for a bit. I'll try not to disturb you too much. I laughed. You're always welcome here, Andrew. We love you, and we're proud of you. That evening, I looked for job opportunities on my laptop. What I found wasn't very encouraging. Without a recommendation from my time at Higgins Investments, I would have to start over. Still, that seemed better than facing constant betrayal. No amount of money could make me stay there, not even $1 million. On Monday morning, after taking a shower, I checked out of the motel. I took my 2 suitcases back to my parents' home and moved into my old room. It felt good to be in familiar surroundings. This place had always been my safe spot, and it was comforting to know it still was. By now, Ben would have told Mary Beth about my resignation. He could try to convince her otherwise, but I knew he had no choice. Later that evening, as we finished dinner, my dad's phone rang. He told me it was Mary Beth calling. I asked to speak with her. It was time to face the situation. Hello, Miss Meadows. How is your sister Marnie doing? Andrew, is that really you? Yes, my name is Andrew Stevenson. Is there something you'd like to share besides what you told my parents earlier? Please stop calling me that. I'm your wife, Mary Beth Stevenson. We've all been so worried about you. What happened? Where have you been? Why did you leave me at the party? I haven't lost my senses, but I think you have. You ask what happened? I saw my wife with my boss while I was stuck in another room with someone trying to distract me. You ask where I've been? I've been away from you. And I left because I planned to divorce you for being unfaithful. I've already quit my job at Higgins. I had no reason to stay in the home we used to share. Is that clear enough? Why do you keep using my maiden name? I'm your wife. Are you having another one of those memory issues? I don't understand what you're saying, Andrew. I need you to remember who I am. We have 3 children, Liz, Andy, and Daisy. They're all very worried about you, too. These memory problems have been happening too often. You need help. Let me arrange a doctor to help you get back to reality. I love you more than anything, and I'm willing to wait for you to get better. Listen carefully, Miss Meadows. I call you that because that's how I see you now. I've never had memory issues. I just want to forget I ever knew you. I don't love you anymore, and I don't want to see you or be with you ever again. I am really hurt that you betrayed me and our marriage, and I can't forgive you for this. Your choices will have effects. From now on, you will go through life without me. You can believe that. I never lie, Mary Beth. I never lie. She started crying hard and hung up the phone. I felt uneasy. My mind was racing with colors and words. My senses were trying to tell me something important. After a moment, some words started to come together in a dark green color. I understood what it meant. I just spoke with Mary Beth, and I need to talk to you both right now. I don't know how much time I have. We're here for you, son, Mom said. What's happening? I'm giving you my link, login, and password to my new bank account in my name only. I need you to use it to get a lawyer for me as soon as you can. A lawyer? For what, Andrew? For a divorce? No, not for divorce. I need a civil lawyer, one who can't be influenced, not even for a lot of money. They might try to pay off my lawyer to turn against me. Mom said, My cousin, Ira Abbott, is a lawyer in another state. You only met him once, but he is family, and he would never be bribed to betray family. We grew up together, and I would trust him completely. He lived with us for 2 years when we were kids. He would help us. But why? Good. There was something off about how Mary Beth spoke to me. I think she may have recorded our call after she realized it was me. She hinted that I have memory issues and need help. It's a clever plan. She and Ben want to control me and persuade me to change my mind about leaving her and my job. Ben has enough money to pay a doctor to have me committed. I can see it clearly. When they come for me, I will go calmly. If I fight back, it would only support their story. When they come for me, ask for the legal papers that say they can take me and find out where they will be keeping me for evaluation. Get Ira involved quickly and make sure he brings my laptop to the courtroom when I have my hearing. I'll give it to you for safekeeping. Pay his initial fee from my bank account so I can show he is my chosen lawyer. They might try to assign me a public lawyer aligned with Ben. Involuntary commitment? Sweetheart, if you believe that, why not hide out for a while so they can't get you? If I do that, it will only make things worse. The legal steps to have me taken will already be set in motion. It's better if I am ready to go and do not resist. Just ensure that Ira is kept on my behalf and can find a way to reach me. He might face some challenges in getting to me. Tell him to be ready for that. Whatever you think is best, son, we support you completely. Sometimes I wish my condition was wrong, but unfortunately it was right. It was around 2 a.m. when there was a loud knock at the door. My father opened it while still in his pajamas. Can I help you, officer? He asked. Yes, is Andrew Stevenson here right now? Yes, sir, that's my son. He is visiting for the night. Is he in trouble? Has he done something wrong? That's not the case. We have a report that your son may be having some difficulties and could be a danger to himself or others. He needs to be taken to a medical facility for evaluation by qualified doctors. I want to state for the record, officer, that is completely false. My son has never had any issues since he was born. He is not a danger to anyone. Do you have legal authority to take him from our home? We were hoping he would go with us willingly. If necessary, we are prepared to take him without his consent. Let me be clear, officer, and I hope your body camera is on. My son will go with you as long as you have the legal right to take him. Can I see your paperwork that allows you to escort him? The officer seemed surprised to be challenged, but he complied since it was a formal request. Yes, sir. He called his partner for the paperwork and handed it over once it arrived. After looking it over, my father said, "Thank you, officer. My son will go with you now." I appeared from behind my dad, fully dressed, smiling, and ready to cooperate. "Are you Andrew Stevenson?" "Yes, sir, I am." Sir, handcuffs are not necessary. You are not under arrest. Since you seem calm, I'll take you to the ambulance over there. They will take you to the hospital for evaluation. Will that be okay?" "Yes, sir, I'm ready to go. Thank you for being respectful to my parents. They deserve that." Seeing my calmness, the officer noted I showed no signs of resistance or distress as he walked me to the ambulance without any trouble. I willingly laid down on the stretcher next to the ambulance, and 2 attendants secured me according to standard procedure for patient transport. When we got to the mental health hospital, they rolled me on a gurney to the check-in desk and handed the worker the papers to process my stay. "Is he under the influence of drugs or has he shown any violent behavior?" she asked the paramedics. We checked him closely on the way here and found no signs of drugs or alcohol. He has been friendly and has not shown any violent or strange behavior. I'm not sure why he's here, but he is now in your care. "Thank you. We can take over from here." They quickly moved me to another gurney and secured me again as they wheeled me into the building, giving me a new patient identification band. "How are you doing, Andrew?" the attendant asked me, trying to keep things calm. "I'm afraid I don't know your name, but to answer your question, I'm doing well, thank you." "I'm sorry, Andrew. My name is Randall. I'll be your orderly during your stay. Thank you for being polite. Most new patients aren't as friendly as you are." "I appreciate that, Randall. I hope we can work together nicely. Good communication will help us both." "I agree, Andrew. Here's your room. When I help you off the gurney, I'd like you to kindly change your clothes and put them on the bed, please. Then you can put on this patient gown that ties in the back. We will keep your things safe while you get comfortable in bed. Once you are settled, my job is to secure you to the bed frame with these soft straps for your safety until you can be evaluated. Will that be okay?" "That's completely fine, Randall. You have explained everything clearly. I will do my best to follow your directions." "I think we will get along well, Andrew. I wish all my patients were as nice as you. You speak very well, too." "Thank you, Randall. I will mention your kindness to the doctor when I meet him." Surprised by my positive attitude, he smiled. "Now that you are secure, I need to give you some calming and sleep medication. This is just to help you stay relaxed during this time. I understand that you have a job to do here. You can count on my full cooperation." He gave me 2 pills and placed them in my mouth. Then he helped me drink some water while gently lifting my head. I took the water and swallowed the pills, allowing him to check my mouth afterward. Randall smiled, winked, thanked me, and left me to my thoughts. I had many thoughts racing in my mind. Slowly, I pushed them aside and accepted that I needed to get some rest. I knew that when my mind was well rested, it could work better. So, I decided to sleep. I started to think of simple math problems, and soon I drifted off. I was woken up at 9 a.m. by a cheerful nurse who brought me breakfast. Wanda asked if I needed to use the bathroom. I told her I did, and she helped me with a special bottle. After I was done, she made sure to cover me up, removed the bottle, capped it, and put it on her cart. Then she brought over the cart and served me breakfast. I was pleasantly surprised that it was filled with foods I liked, but I didn't mention it. We chatted about small things while she worked. She was very good at her job, and I complimented her on how professional she was. Before she left, Wanda placed a call button near my right hand and told me to press it if I needed to use the bathroom again. She promised a quick response because no one wanted to deal with messes. An hour later, I pressed the button, and a male orderly came in to help me with a bedpan. I did not like the smell, but I stayed positive. After that, I felt much cleaner. Then, I started thinking about my situation. I knew that after 72 hours of being checked, there would be a hearing. A judge would ask the doctor questions in front of my lawyer and me to decide if I needed further evaluation or if I could go home. I was nervous about meeting my lawyer, Ira Abbott, but I got a surprise. While I was being evaluated, only my nurse, orderlies, doctor, and attorney were allowed to see me. Family members were not allowed for health reasons. I was shocked when Mary Beth entered the room during lunch. Wanda pushed the cart with my lunch, and Mary Beth walked in right after her. Wanda left quickly, as if she should not listen to what we were saying. I had thought this could happen because of Ben's influence, so I decided to pretend I was asleep. Hello, sweetheart. Are you feeling better this morning? Andrew? Andrew? Can you hear me? She sounded worried that I wasn't responding. She gently tapped my face to try and wake me up. I did my best to keep my eyes closed and stay still. Andrew, wake up, she called out. I kept still and remained quiet. She even tried to give me some juice to see if I would react. I let the juice flow into my mouth and then spill onto the bed. What a mess. Andrew, can you hear me? I love you. But no reply came. They must have given you too many medicines. I will have Ben talk to the doctor about this. You should be awake for me. How can we talk if you don't even know I'm here? I came all the way here for nothing. She leaned over and kissed my unresponsive lips, then left. Wanda came back in just 5 minutes. What's going on with Andrew? She came in upset, saying we were giving you too many drugs and making you like this. I'm not sure, Wanda. Maybe the wrong person is in this bed. I'm not a doctor, I said with a smile. Sorry, she spilled juice everywhere when she tried to feed me. She's not quite as skilled as you are. That's okay, Andrew. I've got a towel under you. I'll change it quickly so you'll be dry again. I don't understand why you're tied down when you seem calm. I haven't seen you act out in any way. I will ask the doctor if we can let you go. You being tied up only makes things harder for us. You can't do anything for yourself, so we have to do everything. I don't understand it either, Wanda. Any help you can get from me would mean a lot. I really have no idea why I'm here. I would never hurt anyone, especially not myself. I have 3 wonderful kids, and hope to be a grandparent one day. We continued to talk about children and families as she fed me lunch before leaving me to my thoughts. Without a clock, and with the staff not telling me the time, I watched the sunlight hitting the wall through the window to figure out meal times. This method worked surprisingly well, and I looked forward to Mary Beth's next visit. Hi, Andrew. It's me again. I've missed you so much while you've been in here. I came to give you lunch since you can't feed yourself. As I waited for her, I pretended to be in a daze, hoping she'd leave quickly. I rested my head on a pillow and kept my eyes half open, staring ahead with a blank look. I let some saliva collect in my mouth, leaving it slightly open. As she looked at me, drool began to spill from the side of my mouth, making it seem like I didn't notice. My arms hung loosely at my sides. Oh, Andrew, you're drooling. Can't you do something about that? Andrew, what's wrong? They told me you were talking earlier. Did they give you more medicine recently? What is happening to you, Andrew? They weren't supposed to turn you into a shell of yourself. I thought the medicine would just help you during the day and let you sleep at night. She tapped my face more firmly than she did yesterday. She was not happy with my silence and again blamed it on the staff or the doctor. I don't know what is going on, but I will find out right now. She grabbed some tissues and wiped my mouth. I stayed quiet and still. I wanted her to think I was still affected by the medicine, maybe so I wouldn't bother anyone. I didn't care what she thought, I just wanted her to leave. Soon she came back with Wanda, who I had gotten to know. Look at him. What have you done to him? His eyes look empty and he can't move or speak. I need him to talk to me. How can he talk if he's like this? She said angrily. Wanda replied, I promise, Mrs. Stevenson, I haven't given him anything strong while I'm here. I'll note this in his chart and make sure Dr. Ederle sees it. Make sure you do, or I will complain. If I had known he would be treated this way, I would never have agreed to this. With that, Mary Beth left, and Wanda checked on me. Once the door was closed, Wanda chuckled. Why are you being so rude to your wife and making her think you're out of it? Just because I'm still married to her doesn't mean I have to talk to her, right? She was unfaithful with my boss. That's why I'm here. They want to punish me for not going along with their plans. Soon, I will have my day in court and be free from this place. If that's what's happening, heads will roll. We already have enough real cases to deal with without someone misusing the system for personal gain. Let me ask you this, Wanda. I've been here 2 days, and tomorrow will make 72 hours. Shouldn't I have a hearing with a judge and my doctor? That is the usual process, except for some special cases. And wouldn't a doctor have checked on me at least once while I've been here? Yes, your chart shows that Dr. Ederle is supposed to be your doctor. Well, if he is, then he is part of this with my wife and my wealthy boss. I haven't seen any doctor at all since I got here. I don't even know what Dr. Ederle looks like. This seems much bigger than I thought if you're telling the truth. What should I do? How can I help you? Wanda asked sincerely. Just keep doing your job, Wanda, whatever they ask of you. I don't blame you for what has happened. If my lawyer is doing his job right, I should be out of here by tomorrow and never come back. Well, if that's true, I'll miss you, Andrew. I wish you the best. You don't deserve this. Dr. Ederle could lose his job over it. I don't think he cares, Wanda. I bet Ben has helped him out financially. Can I ask you for a small favor? Of course. What do you need? I was worried because it was already my third day here and no one had said anything about taking me to court. It was well past morning. After lunch, Mary Beth and Ben entered my room without anyone guiding them. I was ready. I pretended to be out of it again, just like yesterday, with my eyes open and drooling a little. He looks the same as yesterday, Ben. No change at all. Dr. Ederle promised he hadn't gotten any medication in the last 24 hours. There's no way he should still be affected by anything unless they gave him too much before. I half expected this. Just do what we talked about, Mary Beth. Try to wake him up. If that doesn't work, I don't know what will. I can try that, Ben. I just want my husband back. And I want my friend back. We've been stuck since he's been out of it. Go ahead, do what you can. If that doesn't work, we might need to think of something else. You've done well before, so I believe you'll get a response. My wife nodded and stepped closer to the bed, but when she got near me, "What is that smell? It's terrible." She threw back the covers. "Oh no, he's a mess. There's too much for me to handle right now. It might take a while for someone to come clean him up. I don't want to do it. That's their job. Let's come back tomorrow, Ben." About 15 minutes later, Wanda came in laughing. "That woman had the nerve to tell me off for leaving you like this. She said you'd better be cleaned up tomorrow or there would be trouble." "I'm sorry, Wanda, but my plan worked perfectly. I didn't mean to make things difficult for you. This is nothing. Plus, your idea to handle the situation this way made it easier to clean up. Just a bit of a smell left behind. I wish I could have seen her face when she noticed. You're quite a character, Andrew." "Thanks, Wanda. I don't know why my court hearing didn't happen today. Ben must have arranged something with the doctor for more time." "I'm really glad you're here," I said. "It means a lot to me. Even if that's true, you'll still have a hearing in 7 days. I promise you that, even if they have to bring you in on a bed. No one can change that process. I just wish you didn't have to deal with this treatment for 4 more days." "Your shift is the best part of my day, Wanda. Thank you for being so kind. Now we need to plan for tomorrow. Do you know any of the other staff well enough to ask for some favors?" "I think so, but it depends on how big the favors are. They're easy ones, I promise, but it will take a few of you." On the 4th day of my stay at the center, Mary Beth and Ben came in again, acting like they owned the place. Unbothered by my surprise, she continued trying to wake me up. I couldn't move, but I wanted them to think I was unresponsive. Just as she reached out, a male attendant I didn't recognize walked in and approached me. Mary Beth quickly pulled back and stood up, clearly embarrassed. "Sorry, everyone. I need to check his blood pressure now," he said. Mary Beth stepped back from the bed. The attendant winked at me and took his time with the readings, whistling an old Hank Williams tune. I had to hold back my laughter. Once he left, Ben checked the hallway before giving Mary Beth a sign to start again. Just when she resumed, a new female staff member came in, saying she needed to take my temperature. After 2 tries that didn't work, she said the batteries must be low and left to get new ones. She returned after a while and struggled to put the new batteries in, taking even longer before finally leaving again. Mary Beth and Ben were getting restless. Mary Beth asked Ben if she could be in trouble for what she was doing since I was restrained. He assured her that, as my wife, she was safe, so she tried again. Just as she finally got into a rhythm, Wanda walked in saying she needed to take a blood sample. She pretended she couldn't find my vein 3 times before finally claiming she succeeded. In truth, she hadn't actually taken any blood, but they didn't know that. Eventually, Ben and Mary Beth gave up in frustration and left. Wanda and I burst into laughter. Our plan had worked perfectly. They still thought I was unresponsive and couldn't finish their plan to undermine me. On the 5th day of my stay, Wanda had a good idea to limit their access to me, and I agreed completely. Just after Mary Beth touched me, Randall came in and said he needed to take my bed to the basement for a brain scan. He warned them that I might be gone for a few hours. As they were leaving, Ben commented, "Ederle is doing a lot of tests. I'm sure it's to support his case to keep Andrew here longer, at least until he realizes what's happening. I hoped you could talk to him sooner, but things seem busy here. Randall didn't even get my bed out of the room before they left. He just wheeled me back and said he was happy to help. He mentioned that when Wanda talked to him, he volunteered to come in on his day off to assist me. I thought Randall was a good guy. By day 6, I was getting restless. I was tired of being held like this for almost a week without being able to contact my lawyer or my parents. Wanda told me that Ederle had given strict orders to keep me from using any communication devices for my mental health. They had to follow those orders, and I said that I understood. Thankfully, the 2 people who had been bothering me didn't show up that day. I was ready to pretend to be asleep if they did come. I figured they must be in meetings about the hearing the next day, practicing what to do and say for my so-called benefit. I was feeling uneasy, hoping my attorney would be there for me tomorrow. I was counting on him. I felt better knowing that if my parents promised to take care of something, they would do everything they could to make it happen. They had never let me down before, and I trusted that they would keep their word. Tomorrow would be the big day. On the morning of day 7 at 6 a.m., Arlene, an orderly I hadn't met before, woke me and gave me a sponge bath, which Wanda usually did. "Where's Wanda? Is she unwell?" "Oh, she's fine. We usually work 5 days a week. Today is one of her days off, so I'll be taking care of you during this shift. I'm Arlene, by the way. Wanda told me you're her nicest patient. My job is to get you ready for your court hearing today. Once I've cleaned you up, then David, another orderly, will bring the clothes you wore when you came in. Wanda has assured us that you won't need help getting dressed. Once you're unhooked and dressed, David will help you into the wheelchair. That's standard procedure for cases like yours. Then he will take you in the van to the courthouse for your hearing. I was informed that this was just a normal procedure and that you would come back here after the meeting. Is there any issue with what I've shared, Andrew? You won't face any issues from me, Arlene. I'm here to help in any way I can to make your job smoother. I'm looking forward to the meeting today. It should be quite insightful." "What do you mean by that?" "Oh, it's nothing. I just think it could be interesting for me after being here for the past week." I tried not to sound too eager. "I'm sorry to hear that, Andrew. You must be in a unique situation. We usually only hold someone for the night or up to 3 days if they're difficult. I've never seen anyone kept as long as you have, but it's what Dr. Ederle ordered, so we must follow it. I'm not complaining about you or the staff. You all have to do your jobs, and every person I've met has been very professional. Thank you for being kind." Wanda was right, Andrew. You are the most pleasant patient we've had. A special van took me to the courthouse, where David helped me into a quiet room until my hearing at 9 o'clock. It felt nice to finally see a clock on the wall and know the time. No one spoke to me until I was brought into courtroom 3B. It was a private hearing, closed to the public. I still wondered how Ben managed that. Only a few people were present to see this important event. Mary Beth hurried over and gave me a big, enthusiastic hug, but I didn't react. Being unable to move freely, I couldn't push her away, and doing so might have seemed aggressive. I couldn't take that chance. David wheeled me up to the table where 2 other men were sitting. The bailiff came in and announced the judge. I was the only one who couldn't stand. The bailiff started, "Your Honor, the first case today is number 37692, the involuntary commitment of Mr. Andrew Stevenson. All parties are present, Your Honor." "Very well, and who is representing Mr. Stevenson's interests today?" asked the judge. 2 men stood up at once, saying, "I am, Your Honor." One was next to me, and the other was behind me. "There seems to be some confusion here. Which of you is representing Mr. Stevenson?" They both replied together again, "I am, Your Honor." "Okay, let's clear this up. One at a time, you," he said, pointing to the attorney beside me. "You say you represent Mr. Stevenson?" "Yes, Your Honor, without a doubt. I'm Larry Reynolds, appointed by the court as Mr. Stevenson's public defender. I represented him at his initial hearing, and I'm here to follow up today. I see your name is on the list, Mr. Reynolds. Everything appears to be in order." In the courtroom, the judge looked at the man beside me and asked, "Who are you, and how do you say you represent Mr. Stevenson today?" "Thank you, Your Honor. I am attorney Ira Abbott, and Mr. Stevenson hired me to help him with this matter. I have proof of a payment from his bank to mine, showing that I am his lawyer." "This is unusual," the judge said. Most people have only one lawyer, but you have two. Are you both working on this case together? No, Your Honor, both men answered. The judge then turned to me. I take it you are Mr. Stevenson, currently under care at the mental health clinic. Can you answer my questions? Yes, Your Honor, I understand everything happening here today, and I am ready to answer your questions. Good. How do you explain having two attorneys claiming to represent you? Well, Your Honor, I did not know or meet Mr. Reynolds until this moment. I don't know who he is, so I cannot accept his representation. Dr. Ederle, my doctor, stood up quickly. If I may, Your Honor, I'm Dr. Ederle, and I care for Mr. Stevenson. He is under certain safety measures for his protection and yours. He's not in the best state of mind right now and sometimes tries to mislead. To my knowledge, Larry Reynolds is Mr. Stevenson's official attorney. Thank you, Dr. Ederle. If that is the case, we can resolve this easily. Mr. Stevenson, please go on. Thank you, Your Honor. I did hire Ira Abbott to represent me, and I want him to represent me today. My freedom is important, and I wish to have the best legal help I can. I believe I should still be able to choose my lawyer. Yes, Mr. Stevenson, you may do so. Can you tell me if you have spoken to Attorney Ira Abbott about your case before today? I can answer that, Your Honor, Ira said. I have 6 signed statements from the staff at the mental health facility saying they wouldn't let me meet Mr. Stevenson for 6 days. They told me he already had a lawyer and prevented me from clearing up any confusion. I tried to see him, but they only allowed me to come in today. Let me see those statements, the judge ordered. The bailiff handed them over. These documents look real, he said. It must have been an honest mistake by the staff, Your Honor, Dr. Ederle said. They are very busy. I understand, the judge replied. As Mr. Stevenson make any specific claims about her husband when she reached out to you? Yes, she told me she was very worried. She said her husband was confused and making strange accusations. This had serious effects on his life. She also mentioned he had acted aggressively towards her, but she couldn't bring charges because he wasn't in the right state of mind. She asked me to help him recover his normal mindset. And when you examined Mr. Stevenson, did you confirm her concerns? Yes, I saw pretty quickly that he was acting erratically. He seemed to be struggling, and his autism might contribute to his behavior. During his 72-hour assessment, I determined he was still a risk to himself and others, so the court allowed me to keep him until today. I believe he is still having a lot of mental stress, and I need more time to find the best way to support his recovery. This is why I recommended he stay in my care for more treatment. Thank you, Dr. Ederle. I hope your efforts help this man. I have no further questions, Your Honor. Ira then returned to our side, and we prepared for the next steps in the case. As we waited, I felt a mix of hope and anxiety about what would unfold next. Can you tell us more about Andrew's strange claims and actions that worried her? Yes, she said he imagined things and accused her of being involved in a party with his boss. He even tried to quit his job on the day he got a promotion with a very high salary. She thought nobody in their right mind would act like that. His reckless behavior was hurting their marriage and his job. I understand. You've been watching and caring for Mr. Stevenson all week, right? Yes, that's correct. Have you talked to him more than once over the last 7 days to look into his wife's claims? I wouldn't put it that way. My meetings with him were to check on his mental health and see if he might be a danger to himself or others. So you're saying that you believe he is a dangerous man who could harm himself or other people? Yes, that's true. He has harmed our staff and treated them very poorly. That's why he's being kept under close watch, but I don't believe he is beyond help. I think we could see progress from him soon. Until then, he needs our full support. Interesting. I noticed that Mr. Stevenson hasn't shown any aggressive behavior in the court today. How do you explain that? I think he can control himself for short periods when it benefits him. He might believe that behaving well right now will help convince the court to let him leave our care. That would be a mistake. Can we go back to an earlier question? How many one-on-one sessions did you have with Andrew in the last week for his assessment? That's easy. I had 6 sessions with him, each 1 hour long, once a day from 2 to 3 p.m. Are you sure of that, Dr. Ederle? Give me a moment. Let me check my notes, he replied, taking a notepad from his pocket. After looking, he said, Yes, I can confirm those sessions took place at those times. He was usually the calmest a couple of hours after lunch. Remember, you are under oath, Dr. Ederle. There is no need to question me like that. I've been to many of these court hearings. What I told you is correct, he responded confidently. Thank you, sir. I just wanted to make sure everything is clear for the record. I've finished my questioning, Your Honor, but I may want to call the witness back if necessary. The judge nodded. You can step down from the witness stand now, Dr. Ederle. Thank you. Ira went on. If it pleases the court, the defense would like to call Mrs. Mary Beth Stevenson to the stand. After being sworn in, she took her place. Mrs. Stevenson, could you share with the court what happened that led you to have your husband committed? Yes. Andrew and I went to a company Christmas party hosted by Mr. Ben Higgins, the CEO of Higgins Investments, and Andrew's boss. Right after Don Sharp announced his retirement, Mr. Higgins told everyone that Andrew would be promoted to take his place and join the board. I was so proud of him. About an hour later, though, Andrew suddenly started making unfounded accusations about my loyalty to him in relation to Ben. Both Ben and I were shocked. We had no idea where Andrew got such thoughts. He became upset and aggressive with me, then left the party angrily. He had acted strangely before, but this time felt different. I wasn't sure if it was the stress of his new job or something else. He told Ben he was quitting, then stormed out, and I went home with him. We had a terrible fight as he repeated his accusations and shouted at me when I tried to talk to him. He packed some bags, damaged his wedding ring, and threw it at me before driving away. I object, Your Honor, the prosecutor interjected. Is this attorney really qualified to represent Mr. Stevenson? Everything she has said works against him. Because she is his wife, I never asked her to speak against him, but Mr. Abbott here has no problem doing so. The judge looked at Ira before deciding. What do you say? Ira responded, Your Honor, Mrs. Stevenson chose not to use her right to not testify against her husband. She acknowledges being responsible for his initial commitment. I wanted to ensure we recorded all the facts before discussing my client's defense. Her testimony is important for my client's interests, Your Honor. Objection denied. You may continue, Counselor. Thank you, Your Honor. Do you know where Andrew went after he left you that night? I can't be sure, but I found him at his parents' house 2 days later when he answered his dad's phone. I asked him to come back. And what was his reaction? It was as if he wasn't himself. He seemed very confused and kept calling me Miss Meadows, my maiden name, as if we'd never been married. Since he was at his parents' house and had acted violently towards me before, I was worried for their safety. They are older and would not be able to handle a fight. So, let me clarify. You are saying, for the record, under oath, that you were never close with Ben Higgins in a way that would make Andrew want to leave you. Is that correct? Yes, that is correct. I danced with him at the party along with others in a friendly way. Mr. Higgins and I were never close. There was no cheating. All of that is just in Andrew's imagination. He needs help, and I want him to get it so he can return home. I care about you, Andrew, and I just want what is best for you, she pleaded. Thank you, Mrs. Stevenson. I have completed my questioning for now. Your Honor, if it is all right with the court, I would like to call Mr. Ben Higgins to the stand. The prosecutor objected again. Your Honor, this is a waste of the court's time. How could anything Mr. Higgins says be relevant to Mr. Stevenson's hearing? The judge turned to Ira. Your Honor, Mr. Higgins has been Andrew's boss for 20 years. It has been said that Andrew's actions are unusual, especially with a big promotion coming. This witness may provide some important information. Objection overruled. I will allow it, Counselor, but let's keep it focused, understood? Ira replied. Understood, Your Honor. Thank you. Ben Higgins was sworn in and took the place of Mary Beth on the stand. Mr. Higgins, before this recent event with Andrew that we are discussing, how would you describe him as an employee? That's easy, he said. I would describe him as an excellent employee, smart, honest, and dedicated. I've seen him grow from the beginning, and I wish I had 10 more like him. That's why I offered him a position on the board and a great salary. What do you think caused Andrew to act the way he did at the party that night? I really can't say. He has a unique way of thinking. That's one reason he is such a valuable part of the company. I'm eager to have him back with us. He's hard to replace. You have given him high praise, especially considering he accused you of having an affair with his wife. Do you have any idea what could have caused him to act that way? Ben looked surprised by the question. I can't say. He is a good person. He just seems to be struggling right now. I need him back at work. Can't say? Or won't say, Mr. Higgins? Let me ask differently. Today it was mentioned that your employee, Andrew Stevenson, accused you of having a close relationship with his wife. To help the court understand Andrew's state of mind, can you clearly state for the record if there is any truth to that allegation? Have you ever had a close relationship of any kind with Andrew's wife, Mary Beth Stevenson? No! I've never had any kind of close relationship with Mrs. Stevenson. I really feel for Andrew. His mind works differently from ours. He is unique, and I've heard that he sees things that aren't really there. We're all rooting for you, Andrew. Please come back to us soon. Thank you, Mr. Higgins. You may step down. I stayed calm while Mary Beth and Ben were speaking so that no one would think I was upset. Then Ira addressed the judge. Your Honor, if it's all right with the court, I would like to present some video records from the mental health facility where my client has been held. I object, Your Honor. The prosecution wasn't informed about this evidence in advance, so it shouldn't be allowed, the opposing lawyer responded. Ira replied, until this morning, the court didn't even know I represented Mr. Stevenson. As his attorney, I requested video records from Mr. Stevenson's time in his room, thinking they could help respond to the testimonies. I have documents here proving these videos are untouched and show Andrew's true situation. The judge replied, That's a good point. I will check with the person who signed this document to confirm it's real. If what you say is true, I will allow it. The court will take a break for 30 minutes. During this break, Ira had David bring me into the conference room. David gave me a Coke and some crackers. The 3 other people were not allowed to be near me during this time. After the break, court resumed. The videos were accepted as evidence, and Dr. Ederle looked quite anxious. Ira returned to defending me and asked the judge if anyone could play DVDs in the courtroom. The judge had already called Sandra, the clerk, to assist. Sandra, please take these 6 DVDs that cover each of the 6 days Andrew was a patient at the facility. Can you choose one at random and fast forward to the 2 p.m. mark? Sure, just give me a moment. On the screen, we saw her moving the pointer until it reached the 2 p.m. point, and then the video started playing. I was in the middle of the screen, sitting quietly alone. There was no one else in the room. Could you please turn up the sound? I can't hear what Dr. Ederle is saying to Andrew, I said. The audio is already turned up, sir. It seems Mr. Stevenson isn't making any noise, she replied. Interesting. Can you skip ahead in 30-second pieces until Dr. Ederle comes in for Andrew's session? Of course, sir. That will save us all time. She pressed the button to skip ahead repeatedly, but no one else showed up in the room until the hour was over. Your Honor, it seems there has been a misunderstanding. Dr. Ederle did not come for his session that day. Instead of having him come back to the stand, could you ask him to share the correct time that Andrew was in his session on any date? He may have misspoken earlier. Agreed. Dr. Ederle, could you please stand and check your notes? Let the clerk know the date and time when you had a session with the patient. Remember, you are still under oath, the judge reminded him. Feeling very nervous, the doctor stood up and fumbled through his notes. I apologize, Your Honor. I seem to have lost track of my schedule. That's okay, Doctor. Just recall yesterday's session. Can you remember roughly what time you met with the patient yesterday? The clerk can look things up based on that. Well, I struggle to remember details these days, Your Honor. That's why I keep notes. I'm sorry, but I can't give a specific time right now. Your Honor, if I may, Ira interrupted. I have already watched all 6 DVDs by myself. Dr. Ederle did not have any session with my client during that week. We don't have enough time to check my findings here, and my testimony may not be trusted. I invite the doctor to share any of the 6 days he is sure he had a session with my client. While she looks for that, I would like to continue defending my client. His freedom and reputation are at stake, and I am sure we all want to get to the truth. The surprised judge, realizing that a respected psychiatrist might have just lied in his courtroom, looked directly at the doctor. Dr. Ederle, can you provide a single date when you had a session with Andrew, as you previously stated before this court? I'm sorry, Your Honor, I cannot, he said, sitting back down in defeat. Ira added, Since that's the case, Your Honor, I suggest we don't have Sandra search for sessions that do not exist. It seems Dr. Ederle is changing his earlier statement. Furthermore, a review of the videos will show that my client displayed no violent behavior during his entire week of confinement. Being held back for a week like Andrew has been might drive many people to lose their minds, but my client has stayed calm and polite. I can get a coworker to confirm his good behavior right now, but they are hesitant to speak up because they worry about their job. Still, if you want, they are ready to testify about how poorly Andrew was treated for no real reason. The judge asked both lawyers to come closer. Counselor Abbott, are you ready to bring forward this witness now? Yes, Your Honor. Very well then. I will see both of you in my office in 5 minutes, along with the witness, while we take a break from the hearing. Bailiff, please keep order in this courtroom while we are away. The bailiff agreed. I stayed in the courtroom with everyone else. Ira met Wanda in the lobby outside the courtroom. The judge wants to hear what you have to say in private, Wanda. Since this is just a hearing and not a full trial, the judge can make sure your testimony does not hurt your job. Wanda and both lawyers went into the judge's office with her. The judge introduced everyone and then said, "This is a private meeting to find out the truth. I order that this meeting and everything we talk about here stay secret and not be shared outside. Do you all understand?" We all agreed. Now, ma'am, can you show that you work for the mental health agency where Andrew Stevenson is? Yes, Your Honor. Here is my ID card and my access card for the building. You can call the facility and ask about me. They will recognize my picture. Everyone there knows who I am. The judge confirmed her identity. I believe you, Wanda. Can you share your experiences with Mr. Stevenson over the past week? Yes, Your Honor. Andrew is one of the nicest people I've ever met, both at the facility and outside of it. He never showed any anger towards the staff. I was with him for around 8 hours a day for 5 of the last 7 days. Honestly, I chose to spend my free time with him because he is so interesting. I talked to other staff members who also interacted with him, and they all agree with what I just said. But I want to make it clear that I am not a doctor and cannot give a medical opinion. But you only asked about my experiences. Wanda, if he was as kind and cooperative as you say, why was he held back the entire week? Isn't that unusual? Yes, Your Honor, it is. The reason he was held back was because Dr. Ederle insisted that he could not be let go under any circumstances. No one understood why, and it just made more work for us. We had to help him with everything, like using the bathroom, cleaning him up, feeding him, and giving him sponge baths. He could have managed on his own, but he wasn't allowed to. I understand. Thank you, Wanda. You've been very helpful. Remember, everyone, this is confidential. If this kind woman loses her job because of what she said, there will be serious consequences. Yes, Your Honor, we all replied together. Wanda quietly left through a side door as the 3 of us went back into the courtroom, and the hearing continued. The judge called the court back to order and asked, "Is there more evidence to present, or does the defense rest?" Ira spoke up. Yes, Your Honor. If the court allows it, the defense has one more short video clip to submit as a direct response to the earlier testimonies. I couldn't provide it before due to the same reasons. The judge turned to the prosecutor. Any objections? He raised his hands in surrender. I don't think it will change anything, Your Honor. To be fair, we have no objections. 5 minutes, you say? The judge asked Ira. Yes, Your Honor. No more than 5 minutes. Very well. Present your evidence. What is this video about? It shows the motivations of everyone involved, Your Honor. We believe this will clear up a lot of the confusion about Andrew's actions at the party. Go ahead, the judge approved. I used my laptop to download the video from the cloud and transferred it to a USB drive. I handed the USB to Sandra, who started playing it in open court. Mary Beth and Ben gasped as they watched the video, which showed a private moment between them. Ben jumped up. Objection! Stop that! Stop playing that recording right now! Ben shouted. Sandra looked at the judge, who nodded, and she quickly stopped the video. The damage was already done. Ben continued. Where did you get that recording? How did you come by it? He demanded. Your Honor, I would like to call my final witness to the stand, Andrew Stevenson, who can answer that question. All right, but first I order the orderly to immediately release Mr. Stevenson from all restraints. He deserves to be treated with respect in my courtroom, the judge said. David then removed all of my restraints. I stood up and walked to the stand, the first steps I had taken in over a week. Ira began his questioning. Andrew, can you tell the court what that recording shows? Yes, sir. It's an unedited video of my wife, Mary Beth Stevenson, with my boss, Mr. Ben Higgins, in his home. How did you get that recording? I recorded it with my cell phone through a mirror in the bedroom next to where I was kept. I wasn't allowed to leave. Mr. Higgins told me that if I accepted what he was doing with my wife, it would prove my loyalty and help me get a promotion. I saved a copy of the video to my cloud account and deleted it from my cell phone. I was locked in a room with Trudy Salmon, the wife of a board member, while a guard stood outside. She was meant to make me feel better about the situation, but she was not involved. I left my phone at Mr. Higgins' house to avoid being tracked. Then I managed to escape through the window and drove home. Did you ever agree to this situation between Ben Higgins and your wife? No, sir, I did not. I made it clear that if it happened, I would divorce Mary Beth. There was no misunderstanding. The prosecutor could no longer hold back. Your Honor, I object. We've been patient, but what does this questioning have to do with Mr. Stevenson being committed against his will? I'm glad you asked that, Counselor, Ira replied. It is very relevant to this case. Mr. Stevenson's statements have proven true, every detail. Yet, the doctor who was supposed to evaluate and treat him has been challenged here by direct video evidence. What reason would this doctor have to ignore his principles? I suggest that Mr. Higgins' money could provide a motive. Additionally, Andrew's wife, who asked for his commitment, has been shown to be dishonest when she claimed Andrew's thoughts about her and his boss were untrue. Their statements about their relationship have also been contradicted by direct evidence. Your Honor, I argue that these three individuals have teamed up against my client for their own gain. Mr. Higgins has stated he wants Andrew back at work as a valuable employee. Stevenson did not want her husband to leave her because his salary had gone up to $1 million each year, which would improve their life a lot. Do you have any more questions, Mr. Prosecutor? The prosecutor wisely chose to stay quiet. The judge spoke up. I have seen and heard enough to know that this innocent man has been hurt by three people working together. We are here to decide if Mr. Andrew Stevenson should be held against his will in a mental health facility. I believe there is no real proof that Mr. Stevenson is violent or a danger to himself or anyone else. In my honest opinion, he is just as sane as I am. Mr. Stevenson, you are free to go. The facility cannot keep you any longer. Mr. Prosecutor, I recommend you return to your office and make it a priority to bring charges against Dr. Ederle, Mrs. Mary Beth Stevenson, and Mr. Ben Higgins for working together to harm Mr. Stevenson and for lying in court. The prosecutor nodded in agreement. Your Honor, before we finish, could you please sign orders to keep Mary Beth Stevenson and Ben Higgins away from my client? Given what has been revealed today, they have shown they could be a threat to him and his marriage. I have a document detailing the restraining order for you. Ira gave the document to the bailiff to pass to the judge. This seems fair and necessary given the situation. I'm signing it now. Bailiff, make sure those two receive copies of this restraining order before they leave the courtroom. If either of you breaks this order and visits Mr. Stevenson at home or work, or contacts him in any way, you will have to come back here and face the consequences. Is that clear? They both nodded, understanding the seriousness. Mrs. Stevenson, you will need to arrange with a lawyer to gather your things from the home you shared with Mr. Stevenson until this order is lifted. I declare this hearing closed and that everything said will be recorded for the official records. Bailiff, we will take a 15-minute break before the next case, he said as he struck his gavel. All rise. Just like that, my life had started to improve. I thanked Ira sincerely and told him that no matter what he wished to charge for his help, it was worth it. I had faced and overcome this difficult time. He explained that he had accepted my deposit to officially represent me, but that he would return every cent because of how much he appreciated my mother's family. I hugged the man and thanked him again with real joy. Ira drove me to my parents' house since my car was still there. I spent the afternoon with them, expressing my gratitude for helping me find Ira. I made sure to call a florist and sent 36 roses to the staff at the mental health center for their hard work. As the day came to an end, I packed up 2 suitcases of clothes and personal items and returned to my old home. I felt strange calling it home now, as it felt more like a house to me. I didn't plan to stay here for long since I was going to divorce Mary Beth. Uncertain if Ben had been there while I was away, I decided to move my things to another bedroom with a bathroom attached. I made sure nothing of mine was left in the master bedroom and avoided her things. She could take everything that belonged to her, but I preferred to be gone when she did. I found my phone, the one I had left at Higgins' place, back in the house on the charger. I decided to put my other phone aside for now and go back to using my old phone since Mary Beth and Ben were not allowed to contact me. After settling in, I finally had a good night's sleep for the first time in over a week. The next morning, Elizabeth called to wake me. "Hi, Dad. I hope you feel good about yourself." "Hi, Liz. Feel good about what?" "You've really messed things up for you and Mom. Andy and Daisy came to my house last night and Mom told us about the terrible things you've done." "I see. And what exactly do you think I've done to your mom?" "She said you got upset when she danced with Ben at the Christmas party. Then you left her at his house and told her you wanted a divorce. She says you quit your job just to hurt her and kicked her out of her own house. Now there's a restraining order against her." "Wow, Dad, it sounds really bad." "Liz, She cut me off. "Mom told us not to believe your side of things. Are you seeing someone else, Dad? Is that what this is about?" "So you're choosing to believe your mother without hearing my side?" "That's how it is, Dad." "Then why did you call me if you don't want to listen?" "I called just to understand, Dad. Why are you doing this to Mom? Why end your marriage and your job? There has to be someone else. Just tell me the truth." I felt frustrated with Mary Beth for lying to the kids and turning them against me. I knew she wouldn't believe I would show the kids what really happened. I couldn't blame my children for believing their mother, but I was really let down that they didn't want to hear my side of the story. "You want answers? You'll find them at the courthouse. Write this down, Liz. Case number 37692 about Mr. Andrew Stevenson." "What? That's not a real answer?" "You said you wanted answers. I'm telling you where to find them. Look up the court hearing. It will be helpful. Liz, I think it's wonderful that you and your siblings are supporting your mother. She will need all the love and care you three can give her, especially after the divorce. If you, Andy, and Daisy choose to only stand by your mother, that's your choice. But if you're the smart young woman I know and love, check the official court records. Tell Andy and Daisy I care about them just as much as I care about you. Goodbye, Liz." Then I ended the call. Only time would tell what would happen with them. Shortly after I hung up with Liz, my phone rang again. "Hey, Andrew. This is Bill Spencer, Jr., the new head of Prospect Evaluations. I know who you are, Bill. I also know your father. Just so you know, I quit my job at Higgins, so I'm not your co-worker anymore." "Right. That's why I'm calling. Andrew, it would mean a lot to me if you let me treat you to lunch today at any place you want. I understand there are issues between you and Ben, but I promise he won't be there. This is just between us." I have to admit I was curious. He knows I resigned, yet he still wants to meet. Let him pay. I thought of one of the fanciest restaurants in town. "Okay, Bill. I'll let you treat me to lunch at Del Frisco's Double Eagle Steakhouse at 1 p.m. Are you still interested?" "Of course. Great choice. See you at 1. I'd never been to such an expensive restaurant before. Mary Beth had suggested going there many times, but I always thought it was too pricey. It didn't seem right to spend so much on one meal, even though I earned more than she did. Bill showed up right on time. We ordered our meals and started chatting as soon as our appetizers arrived. I guess you're wondering why I wanted to meet Andrew. To be honest, my reason is a bit selfish. You managed to surprise Ben in some way. I don't know all the details, but that's not why I wanted to talk. When he saw that you weren't coming back to Higgins Investments, he chose someone else for the position you left when he took over for Don Sharp. I now understand why you left your job and why you are currently apart from your wife. Before you ask, I had to take the same loyalty test he asked of you. At first, the idea of sharing my wife with 6 other men made me uncomfortable, but the increase in salary really helped us decide to go along with it, along with the chance to share their wives. I'm not judging you for saying no to that lifestyle. In fact, I'm really grateful that you did because of the opportunities it has given me, both financially and personally. I don't blame you for that, Bill. Clearly, we have different values, to each their own. Congratulations on your choices. But that's not why you wanted to meet with me, is it? You could have simply told me about your new promotion over the phone. So what do you really want from me? We paused as the server brought our main courses and refilled our drinks. Everything looked and smelled wonderful. You're right, Andrew. I want to tap into your expertise for a moment, if you don't mind. That depends. How can I help, Bill? Now that I'm the vice president of Higgins Investments, it's my job to find companies for Ben to buy or merge with, to keep the strong growth going that Higgins has enjoyed under you and Don. I know what the job involves, Bill. I've done it for many years. Exactly, Andrew. That's why I reached out. I'm still learning in my new role and want to achieve even half of the success you and Don had for the company. Most of the ideas you two came up with turned out to be really profitable. Right now, I have one promising lead, and it, like many others in the past, came from you. Don's notes and potential leads were passed down to me, but your old office didn't give me much to help start my work as the lead forecaster. However, the day before he retired, Don got excited talking to my dad about Simtech Medical Devices Corp. I asked a team of 4 in prospect evaluations to look closely at Simtech as my first suggestion for Ben. I must say, the numbers and findings they shared were very encouraging. They make defibrillators, advanced pacemakers, and devices that support heart function, competing with large companies like Medtronic, Johnson & Johnson, Abbott, and Philips, each of which made over $20 billion last year. I remember discussing that company with Don, but Bill cut me off. I have a copy of your email to Don about Simtech. It feels more like a warning than a recommendation. Your email mentioned that the company wasn't as environmentally friendly as you'd like it to be. That's correct, Bill. That's why I didn't fully endorse the recommendation. I just wanted Don to keep that company in mind for the future and to wait until we had more complete information. Andrew, I won't pretend to understand how you make your choices. Your track record speaks for itself unless Don has been misleading everyone about you. But that's not why I wanted to meet. Here's what I think. While Simtech might be a solid company to take over and profit from, I believe you might have an even better option in the wings. You knew that the promotion was yours from the start. We all did until you exceeded expectations. Knowing that, I suspect you had another much better company than Simtech to present to Ben. Would you be willing to share that name with me so I can make a strong recommendation? I'm sorry, Bill. Are you suggesting that I proposed a mediocre company to Don before his retirement and kept a better opportunity to myself to make myself look good when I took over his role? That's not how I operate. Simtech was the last lead I mentioned to Don before I left, but I still can't fully back it. I can't quite explain my doubts, though. Okay, I understand. Maybe you're holding back to save it for your next job. I respect that, Andrew. I just wanted to get the best recommendation possible. Listen, Bill, I'm being honest with you. If you want to recommend Simtech, that's up to you. But the outcome of your choice, whether good or bad, is solely yours. I don't know what else to say. From what I've heard, Andrew, your less popular choices are often better than many others' top picks. I'm going to recommend Simtech to Ben for a quick merger because I haven't seen anything else that matches their potential for profit. I apologize for trying to get insights from you. I just had to ask. Bill, I wish you the best as you take on your new position. Tell your dad I said hello. With nothing else important to discuss and the topic of Ben and his club off limits, we chatted about light topics. I left my meeting with Bill feeling satisfied and with some valuable information. I needed to get back to my computers to figure out what was bothering me. Dr. Ederle was indeed facing several serious charges from the district attorney that would jeopardize his credentials and possibly lead to prison time. However, that was not the case. While he was out on bail, Dr. Ederle vanished to the Maldives, seemingly for good. He and his whole family just picked up and moved. Why the Maldives? They have no agreement to send people back to the USA. I guess that Ben helped the doctor make this escape. Now he and his family live in luxury and are safe from the law. Once Dr. Ederle was gone, the DA's office quickly asked, and the judge agreed, for Ben Higgins and my wife to give up their passports when they were brought to court. They also faced serious consequences if the charges were true. Of course, Ben managed to get them out even before they settled into their seats. A week later, my assistant, Franny Browder, called and asked to meet me at a nice restaurant. Franny was always straightforward and happily married, so I knew her reason for reaching out wasn't personal. She didn't want to talk over the phone, so I agreed to meet her the next day for lunch, which she said would be paid for by the company. When I sat down with her, she seemed nervous. "You look well, Andrew." The same goes for you, Franny. Now that we're here, what do you want to talk about? Please don't be mad at me, Andrew. I can't remember ever seeing you upset in all the years I've known you. I hope that doesn't change today. What could I be upset with you about, Franny? You've always been great to work with, and we've respected each other. Don't change, Andrew. Keep that kindness. As you know, I'm still working for Higgins under Bill Jr. I miss working with you and Don, but I need the money, and this job pays well. Anyway, Mr. Higgins asked me to reach out to you on your wife's behalf. She's eager to talk to you, but a restraining order stops her from contacting you unless you allow it first. If you agree to meet with her even for a little while, she'd be thankful. I'm just the messenger. You can leave at any time. There's no trap, and no one will record the conversation. She's feeling lost and wants to explain some things. She's waiting outside in a company car. Can I ask her to come in? I should have guessed something was going on. Franny, I understand you had no choice. No, I'm not angry at you. Ask the waiter to keep our table safe while I go to the restroom, and you switch places with Mary Beth. If I come back and see Ben or anyone else strange, I'm leaving. But if I see her alone, I guess I can spare a few minutes to listen. Thank you, Andrew. You're still the amazing person I've always respected. Just so you know, I have to thank you. Mr. Higgins promised me a $1,000 cash bonus if you agreed to meet with her. Good for you, Franny. Tell Mary Beth to go ahead and order for us both. She knows what I like. I'll return to the table and meet with her soon. I went to the restroom for about 10 minutes. As I walked out, I looked around to see if anyone new or unusual was there. I felt nervous about seeing her again, but thought it was time to hear her out before sharing my thoughts. Mary Beth was in a nice dress, just like usual. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary as I walked up to the table. She stood up with a big smile and opened her arms to me for a hug, but I quickly sat down instead. She kept smiling as she took her seat. You have no idea how wonderful it is to see you again, Andrew. I have missed you more than you can imagine. I have cried every night since we've been apart. You look good, Mary Beth, but you always do. If you don't mind, let's wait until after the food comes before we start talking about us. That way, we won't be interrupted. That works for me, Andrew. As you can see, my phone is here and turned off. It can't record our conversation. Everything we say today is private, just between us. Could you turn your phone off and put it on the table too? That way we can speak freely. I should have guessed you'd be worried about that after what happened in court, I said as I turned off my phone and placed it on the table. Now I understand why you set this up the way you did. What do you mean? If I knew I was meeting you instead of Franny, I might have recorded our conversation, but I wouldn't go through that hassle for a former friend. Smart thinking. One can't be too careful these days. Let's leave out any friendly terms for now, okay? Of course, Andrew. I don't want to upset you. I hope to bring us back to a good place if I can. We talked about her job and made small talk while we waited for our food. About 25 minutes after she arrived, we began eating, and she started to share what was on her mind. Thank you for agreeing to see me despite that restraining order, she said. After everything that happened, I think that restraining order is a good idea for my peace of mind. Is that what you wanted to talk about? No, Andrew. I came to sincerely apologize. I'm truly sorry that you were hurt and felt you had to leave that night. It was never meant to be one-sided. Trudy was meant to charm you, but that didn't happen. She is very upset with you for tricking her. As I remember, you and Ben were the only ones celebrating that night. Tell me the truth, Mary Beth. How long were you and Ben together that evening? She turned red from my direct question. I won't lie to you, Andrew, not anymore. You deserve to know the truth, even if it's hard for me to say. I want us back together in our home. We need to move on from this. Ben and I were close that night for several hours until we were both too tired. It felt special for me. I'm sorry, Andrew, but I promise to be honest. The strange thing is that nobody knows how you got that video of us together. Both our phones were taken away when we got there. I'm sorry, Mary Beth. I'm not here to satisfy your curiosity. I showed that video in court to prove you and Ben were lying and that you both plotted with Dr. Ederle against me to have me locked up until I agreed to join your club. Why, Mary Beth? Why would you do that to me, to us? Are you joking? Did you forget that you would earn $1 million a year in your new job? That's just the start. Julie said Don shared that you were the main reason Higgins Investments has done so well. You would get big raises and bonuses. We finally made it to a good life, and all we have to do is go along with this. Ben really wants you back, Andrew. He told me he'd make sure Bill Jr. leaves the moment you agree to return. I frowned. I'm never going back to that place. You can forget about that idea. Andrew, don't be quick to decide something so important. Ben said I could offer you this as a last chance. He wants you back so much that he is ready to remove the condition about sharing partners that the other board members have. Neither you nor I will ever have to share again. Wasn't that your only concern? We can go back to how it was before everything fell apart. Just you and me against the world. Isn't that what you've been wanting? Mary Beth, you act like what you did is a small mistake, just a little bump for us. I'm telling you it's not. You turned the law against me by lying to the authorities, claiming I was dangerous and unstable. In court, you chose to speak against me instead of keeping silent. You broke your marriage vows and betrayed me with my boss, which cost me my career and our marriage. Yet you still act as if your actions make you a great wife? Yes, Andrew. I admit it. I did all those things, but I did it for us, for good reasons. If you go back to work for Ben, you'll never have to share me with another man again, and we can buy everything we've dreamed of. Just think about it. Mary Beth heard a woman crying behind her. The woman's sadness was so deep that Mary Beth felt she had to turn around. Liz, what are you doing here? Why are you crying? What did you hear? My oldest child jumped up and ran to me, hugging me tightly. I held her as she cried on my chest. I didn't like putting her through this, but she would never believe her mother could say such hurtful things unless she heard them herself. Daddy called and asked me to come over right away because it was urgent. He wanted me to listen quietly to your talk with him. After everything you told me about him, I felt it was fair to hear him out, and I'm glad I did. Mom, you lied to us and used us against Daddy. We trusted you completely, and that was a mistake. Daddy, can you forgive me, Andy, and Daisy for not believing you before? I promise we won't make that mistake again. I hugged my daughter tightly. Of course, I forgive you, Liz. I just wanted you to know the truth. Now that I know the truth, I'll make sure Andy and Daisy do too. I'll take care of that. Mary Beth tried to fix things. Sweetheart, Liz interrupted her. You had your chance to tell us the truth, Mom, and you missed it. I'm so ashamed for how we treated Dad when it was you who misled us and hurt him. It will be a long time before we can trust you again. Mom, you need help. You should see someone to talk to. Mary Beth cried as she watched her daughter tell me how much she loved me, kiss me on the cheek, and then walk away from her mother without another word. I felt certain that Andy and Daisy would soon feel the same way as their big sister. Why did you turn the kids against me, Andrew? That was really hurtful. I could ask you the same thing, Mary Beth. But really, I didn't turn the kids against you. You did that with your own words. I just made sure Liz heard the truth from you. I didn't turn them against you. I just suggested that they help you see that you were partly to blame for our separation. I wanted them to help you choose to come back to me so we could be a family again. That's all I ever wanted, Andrew, was to reconnect with you. You've made it very clear what you want, and it all seems tied to my potential job promotion. Leaving that job was the most foolish thing you've ever done. I disagree. The most foolish thing I ever did was marry you. Our 3 children are the only bright parts of my life from our time together. Every memory I've had with you is marred by your betrayal. There was a time when I couldn't imagine life without you. Now, I can't imagine a life with you in it. Let's end this and have a respectful divorce. I promise not to say bad things about you to the kids. You've done enough of that yourself. Mary Beth's expression shifted from regret to a stern look. All right, Andrew. If you want to ruin your life, I can't stop you. You can't say I didn't try to talk sense into you. You don't understand how powerful Ben is. If he wants a problem fixed, it will get fixed one way or another. Is that a warning, dear wife? It's the best advice I can give you, considering your stubbornness. Think about it, Andrew. You're not a challenge to Ben's wealth. We're both trying to help you, but you won't accept it. You need to talk to the DA about dropping those silly charges. Thanks for your help with the kids. The only thing I care about now is the divorce. Tell Ben thanks for covering the bill. I'm sorry, Mary Beth, but I'm done. Please don't try to contact me again. It would be best not to break the restraining order. Goodbye, I said angrily as I put my phone away and walked off, leaving a crying woman behind. The next weekend brought a nice surprise. All three of my children spent the weekend with me at home, asking for my forgiveness and offering support after everything that had happened. Liz pulled me aside and spoke quietly. I finally looked into that court case you asked me about. I had no idea what Mom and your boss were up to and what you faced with her false claims. Seeing that video of them together was shocking. No child should see their mother in that way, but I understand why you brought it up. We all turned against you, and we were wrong to do that. It won't happen again, Daddy. But I won't tell Andy and Daisy about the video. I've shared everything else with them, and I think that's enough. Honey, I understand. I wouldn't have shown that video if your mother had been honest with us. I'm disappointed. I wish she had talked to me about their offer first instead of surprising me. If she had just been open with me, we might still be together. But that's in the past now. I didn't like seeing the kids leave. Andy and Daisy went back to college, and Liz has a job and a good husband. I want nothing but the best for them. Now I'm alone again in a house filled with memories of what used to be, contrasted with what is now. I'm still looking for a job, even though I have my degree and years of experience in analysis. I will keep searching for a company that needs my skills. This past week, I packed up Mary Beth's things that I recognized as hers. I feel torn about selling the house. With the kids back supporting me, this place feels like their home base, especially for Andy and Daisy. I've left all their belongings just as they were. A few friends reached out, shocked to hear about Mary Beth and my divorce. I simply said we had different paths in life. I could tell they wanted to know more, but I didn't want to go into the details. On Friday, I decided to get out of the house. I watched a movie and dined at a nice restaurant. Being alone made me think about everyone around me and what might be happening in their lives. It's odd. I never used to think like that. After parking my car in the garage around 9 p.m., I headed back inside. I thought a hot shower and some TV news might help me sleep. As I walked through the den toward the stairs, suddenly a light turned on and two men grabbed me. They were much stronger than I was, and I felt helpless. "Who are you and what do you want? I have nothing valuable here. Just take my wallet and leave. I promise I won't tell anyone," I stammered. The men laughed at my situation. "No, Andrew, we don't want anything from your house. We only need one piece of paper. You'll sign it, and then we'll take it somewhere to be notarized. So why not make this easy on yourself and sign it so we can leave without any trouble?" "Sign what?" "Here, read this. We have a copy in case you tear this one up. The original is over there on that table. Trust me, you will sign it. The choice is yours, easy or hard." I reluctantly read the document they handed me. To whom it may concern, I, Andrew Stevenson, being of sound mind and body, willingly declare that I agreed to my wife's relationships with other men, pretending otherwise to gain more money from my boss, Ben Higgins. When my last attempt to find peace failed, I became aggressive and hurt my wife. This led to my stay in a mental health facility where I should have stayed longer. My erratic behavior pushed my wife away, and I now see no future for myself. I want to say that Mary Beth Stevenson, Ben Higgins, and Dr. Ederle are not to blame. They fell victim to my clever tricks. My last wish is for my wife to find joy with someone else and to forgive me for my mistakes. Without her, my life feels empty. Andrew Stevenson. I can't accept this. This is a note saying you want to end your life. One of the men hit me hard in the stomach. I struggled to breathe. When I could finally move, he put a pen in my hand and forced me to sign. When I hesitated, he struck me again, making me feel dizzy and sick. I knew if I signed, it might cost me my life. But not signing would only lead to more pain and then death. Feeling defeated, I wrote my name. "Good choice. You just avoided worse pain. I promise to keep it as quick as possible. Just stay still while I take my shot. Once you're gone, I'll fire another shot from your hand for proof, but I'll take that bullet with me." I closed my eyes and whispered a prayer, preparing to leave this life. Ben had beaten me. He took my wife, ruined my marriage, and now was about to end my life. There was nothing more he could take from me. Just as I braced for the impact, I heard a loud thud. I opened my eyes to see the man with the gun lying on the ground, unconscious. The other man, shocked, moved to confront the one who had knocked out his partner. What I witnessed was shocking. It felt surreal, almost like a scene from a movie where a hero was fighting an enemy too fast to follow. The fighter defended himself as best he could, but his opponent seemed to anticipate every move. Then came a swift blow that sent the attacker to the ground, as out cold as his partner. I looked at my rescuer, curious about what would happen next. I was speechless for a moment. A hand reached out to me. "Hello, Andrew. I'm Kayla. Kayla Feldman. Are you all right? Let me help you up." "I remember you. You're Ben's bodyguard. Are you here to hurt me, too?" "You're partly right. We've met before, and I used to work for Ben. Like you, I'm currently without a job." She took out her phone and dialed. 911? "Yes, my name is Kayla Feldman, and I'm at Andrew Stevenson's home at 1142 Forest Avenue. I need to report an attempted murder against Mr. Stevenson. I'm his bodyguard, and I had to step in to stop 2 men from hurting him. Please send 2 ambulances and the police to handle the situation. I also have video proof of what happened. Yes, we will wait here until the police arrive. The immediate danger has been handled for now." "Listen, Andrew. The police will be here soon. Cases like this are very serious. Let me do most of the talking. Answer only the questions they ask you directly. I'll take care of the rest. I know you have a lot of questions, and there's much we need to discuss, but we have to wait for now. Once everything is clear, we can go somewhere safe to talk. Okay?" I nodded. Kayla was really good at speaking with the police and explaining everything that happened. The 2 men were still unconscious when the ambulances came, but the paramedics managed to wake them up. The detective arrived shortly after, asking questions of both them and Kayla. She protected me from the stress of it all. I only had to answer a few questions to confirm what she said. Once all the evidence was collected and documented, police tape was put up around the front of my house. It was now a crime scene, and they needed to return later to gather more evidence and close the case properly so the attackers wouldn't escape justice. The detective asked if I had another place to stay for a few days. Kayla assured them that I did, but she asked if I could pack a suitcase first. That was fine with them. My mind was racing because everything happened so quickly. I was confused about why Ben's bodyguard would risk herself to save me. Nothing seemed clear. After the police let us go, she drove me to her home. She promised I would be safe there. I took my suitcase inside her nice house and she led me to the kitchen. "I know it's late, Andrew, almost midnight, but I'm sure you have a lot on your mind. Would you like some coffee as we talk?" Kayla asked. "Sure, thank you." She handed me a cup of great coffee. "Before you ask any questions, I want to share some important information that may help with your concerns. Would you mind waiting until I finish?" "Of course, Kayla. I owe you my life. I'm happy to wait." "Thank you, Andrew. I grew up in a home in Israel with 4 older brothers. I was the youngest of 5 and the only girl. My parents wanted me to be very girly since I had 4 brothers before me, but I was born with a strong and competitive spirit. I had to work hard to get what I wanted from my brothers. As I grew up, they didn't treat me like a girl, and they were tough with me. I took martial arts classes and learned to hold my own against them. I quickly got stronger and shared the mindset of a fighter. Eventually, I became a commander in the IDF, earning my place through hard work. Nothing was simply given to me. I met Ben while I was providing security in Europe. He asked me to be his chief of security. My team checks everyone who comes to our company's Christmas parties, so I hadn't looked at your information before I noticed you that night. There was a reason I was looking at you, and it wasn't because I thought you might cause trouble." Kayla took a sip of her coffee and continued. "I was surprised when I saw you that night, so I decided to review your information carefully and learned everything I could about you. I probably know more about you now than your own kids do. But one thing I found was truly interesting. I was diagnosed with high-functioning autism when I was a teenager, but there's more to it. My doctors told me I have a rare ability called synesthesia. You have a different type of synesthesia where numbers form shapes, while I see auras around people. This helps me understand what kind of person they are, whether they are honest, kind, smart, or careless. Each trait creates a different colored aura when I look at someone. I spent time figuring it out and learned to read people by their main personality traits. I focused on those with bad intentions to protect others, especially during my time as a commander. While in the IDF, I trained with many other female soldiers and met someone special named Chaya Cohen. When I first saw her, she had a beautiful golden aura with bright white spikes, almost like she was shining. We became very close friends, and I discovered she had synesthesia too. We were nearly inseparable until she was taken by attackers. I made it my mission to find and stop those who hurt her. I made sure they faced justice for what they did to someone so dear to me. Andrew, the reason I was looking at you was that you have that same golden aura with bright white spikes. I made sure to keep an eye on you as best as I could while I was still working for Ben. We both took sips of her delicious coffee as she continued. Yes, I knew about the unusual relationships between the CEO and the board members' spouses. Ben liked it, and they all seemed okay with it, so I didn't feel it was my place to interfere. But when Ben put you in that situation without warning, that didn't feel right to me. I wanted to find a way to protect you. I couldn't help your wife, as she had been influenced for so long that she was already lost to you before that night. However, as things happened, I did what I could to help you. Let me explain. Ben's entire mansion has audio and video equipment everywhere, even in the bathrooms. As his security chief, I see everything. It's my job. I noticed you heading upstairs after Robert and Trudy. When one of my staff closed the door, I went to the main security room where all the camera feeds are recorded and took over for the regular staff member. While the feeds from the bathrooms and bedrooms are stored for later review, they can't be seen live without a special password. I accessed the feed from the bedroom you were in, and I watched as you were caught off guard by Ben and your wife. It was clear to me that you didn't see it coming. Ben laid out his plan, but you turned it down straight away. I was glad to see that, but Ben didn't give in. He is a billionaire used to getting his way. When they left you alone with Trudy, I wasn't sure if you would be tempted, so I stayed and watched. If she managed to win you over, there wouldn't be much more I could do. But when I saw you cleverly suggest tying her up to buy yourself some time, I couldn't help but laugh. I kept watching as you made that recording using Trudy's phone and covered your tracks. When you opened that window, I knew I had to act. I used my radio and told the guard on that side of the house to take a break. Several cameras were aimed at the roof, so I saw you going to that tree to climb down. I then called the guard watching the cars to take over the side of the house since you were no longer there. When you escaped in your car, I let the guard at the main gate take a break and instructed a guard inside to watch the parking area. After I saw you drive away safely through the gate, I let the gate guard return with some snacks. So, you see, I was looking out for you that night. You wouldn't have made it very far without my help. The last thing I did for you that night was use my stun gun on the video recorder, which ruined it and erased everything recorded from that evening. Ben was upset that there was no video of your escape and ordered a new recorder to be flown in overnight. He questioned all the guards and staff about how you slipped away without anyone noticing. Nobody had a clue except me, because I was watching out for you. When Ben asked what happened, I reminded him that I wasn't watching every guest and that my main job was to keep him safe. He couldn't argue with that. I'm sure you saw me in the courtroom, but I was there to protect Ben. You didn't seem to need my help. You had a great lawyer on your side. What changed everything was what happened after the trial. Your video and testimony exposing their lies has become public, and even Ben's wealth couldn't change the outcome. I had never seen him so furious. He became fixated on getting back at those who wronged you. That's when he came up with the idea of your signed confession and a staged escape. It would clear them of blame and allow him to get his revenge at the same time. I don't think your wife knew about his plan. Ben asked me to take care of it, promising me a big bonus. I said no. He got angry and said if I wouldn't do it, he would find someone else. That's when I decided to quit my job as his security chief and bodyguard. He begged me to stay, but I just walked away. I regretted not being there for my best friend, Chaya Cohen, when she needed help. I wasn't going to let anything happen to you, not while I was around. You and Chaya are the only two people I've met who have those special golden auras. I lost her for good, but I won't lose you too. I know you don't know me well, Andrew, but right now, you're safe here with me. She paused and took a big sip of her coffee. I was shocked. I thought I had been clever in escaping the mansion that night, but it turns out it was all her doing. I realized I didn't need luck as long as I had Kayla to support me. I still had a couple of questions. I can't thank you enough for saving me, especially tonight. I have never seen anyone fight like you did tonight. You saved my life, Kayla, and I will always be grateful. But what will Mr. Feldman think about me being here with you? Mr. Feldman? My father? Father? No, I mean your husband or boyfriend. She laughed at my confusion. You're amusing. I'm not married, and there's no one serious in my life right now. I've had my share of admirers, and I have some experience in relationships. My father, Mr. Feldman, always told me not to settle down too quickly. He encouraged me to wait for someone truly special. Honestly, I've been looking for a great connection. But you're married. Just for a little while. I hope to change that soon. She smiled at me, and it made me feel warm inside. It won't take long for Ben to realize that something went wrong with his plan. He'll eventually learn that I interfered to save you. But he knows better than to come after me or threaten you at my place. That would be a big mistake for him. If he tried, he would have to deal with me, and he knows I can handle myself. I'm not saying no one could challenge me. I'm just saying that Ben doesn't know anyone who could. The district attorney struck a deal with the two men involved, where they would get shorter sentences for attempted harm in exchange for testifying against Ben Higgins, who was the mastermind behind their actions. Since this was a serious situation now, the DA quickly added more charges against Ben. The DA had little patience for wealthy people who thought they could ignore the law. They couldn't find a way to connect Mary Beth to the attempted harm, even though her letter showed she would have gained from my downfall. She was very upset when she found out someone had tried to hurt me. Once my home was cleared of any evidence related to the case against the two men, I was able to go back and collect more of my belongings. Kayla persuaded me to stay with her until the trial was finished. She believed Ben might try something again. Honestly, I would have liked staying with Kayla even without the danger. Just to be clear, we did not have an intimate relationship, at least not while I was still bound to Mary Beth. Kayla respected my integrity, and that was something she admired about me. However, every moment spent together felt special. The best way to describe it is that she is the magnet, and I am drawn to her. We could sit in silence for a long time, but still feel a strong connection just by being close to each other. I stayed in her spare bedroom, even though she told me I could join her whenever I wanted. Ben offered to help Mary Beth with lawyers, but she decided to find her own lawyer who said she should be tried separately from him. She faced charges for conspiracy, making false statements to have me committed, and lying under oath. Mary Beth was found guilty and, since it was her first offense, she received a 10-year prison sentence but could apply for parole. Feeling defeated, she cried as she signed the divorce papers while in jail. I thought I was finally free, but things took a different turn. A week later, Mary Beth reached out to my divorce lawyer to arrange another meeting with me. I was confused as to why my lawyer thought I should go. "All right, Mary Beth, I got your message from my lawyer who didn't share any details. You've already signed the divorce papers. So what could be so important that I need to meet you?" "Thanks for coming, Andrew," she said softly. "Your lawyer allowed me to meet you in person, and I appreciate it. To keep it simple, I'm pregnant. I've noticed the signs. After having 3 kids, I know the symptoms well. I expect you'll want to argue about this, but that's not why I called you here. I remember you had a vasectomy after Daisy, so I understand why you doubt that you could be the father. But your lawyer will tell you that our divorce can't move forward until paternity is legally confirmed. The state recognizes that a vasectomy can sometimes fail, so they won't finalize our divorce until any custody matters are sorted out." "What? Are you serious? We've had unprotected sex plenty of times since your vasectomy, and now you think I might have gotten you pregnant? Remember, everyone saw the video of you with Ben, who can still father children." "I know, Andrew, and I regret that deeply. After being with you all those years, it didn't even cross my mind that night. Yes, it could be Ben's, but we were together days before the Christmas party. It's not impossible that you could be the father. It only takes 1 sperm. Don't give me a lesson on this, Mary Beth. I know a non-invasive prenatal paternity test exists. When can that be done?" "I know about that test, and I asked the doctor here about it. She said it's safe for me and the child, but we should wait until after 7 or 8 weeks of pregnancy for accurate results. I think I'm about 6 weeks along right now. I don't mind having the test, but you'll need to pay for it since the state doesn't cover these costs. No matter who the father is, you know me well enough to understand that I could never consider ending my pregnancy. If it's Ben's, I could offer it to his family or find someone to adopt. Ben doesn't know about my pregnancy. You're the only person I care to tell. I hope that somehow we can be blessed with another child, Andrew. That is my only wish." Tears rolled down her cheeks as her painful words reached me. I could feel her sadness. Even though I wanted to point out her self-made struggles, I held back because I felt for her. I'm sorry, Mary Beth. I can't say I'm excited about being the father of your baby. It's sad that you are dealing with this on top of your past mistakes. Having a child while in prison isn't easy for anyone. I'll make sure the test happens in 2 weeks. If, by some chance, it turns out to be mine, I will take responsibility and support the child. If it's Ben's, that choice is yours to make. My lawyer will contact you to arrange the test. Until then, please take care of yourself. She cried as I stood up and left. Kayla was very supportive after hearing the news. She told me she believed Ben could still have children and agreed that he was likely the father. She kept telling me that things would turn out well. For some reason, nothing else seemed to matter to her except that I was still okay. My lawyer was able to schedule the DNA test for 18 days from then. We had to coordinate everything with the prison. 12 days later, I got a collect call from Mary Beth. I accepted the charges, curious if there were any updates about the test. Thanks for taking my call, Andrew. I can't face you right now. I'm so upset. I'll be quick. I had a miscarriage. After that, I had a checkup and learned I have endometriosis. Some women get it as they get older. In my case, it was from an ectopic pregnancy. The baby never had a chance. We will never know who the father was. I guess it doesn't matter now. You're free from this, Andrew. The state will be informed, and your lawyer can work on our divorce without any trouble. I won't fight you. I'm sorry, Andrew. I made some terrible mistakes, and now I'm paying for them. I've lost you. I love you, Andrew, now and always. I really hope that Kayla makes you happy, she said, then ended the call in tears. I sold our house and put her share of the money into her account along with her part of everything we owned. I didn't try to keep anything from her. I didn't need to. The 2 men involved at first faced serious charges that could have sent them to prison for life. But after making a deal, their charges changed to lesser ones. Because they agreed to testify against Ben, they received much shorter sentences of 5 years. Ben Higgins was not as lucky. With many charges against him, the district attorney was aiming for a life sentence with no chance of parole. But Ben's expensive lawyers convinced the DA to skip the trial. Ben confessed and accepted a deal, agreeing to spend 40 years in prison but could get out in 20 with good behavior. His life was about to change a lot. I also had my lawyer, Ira Abbott, file a case against Ben for what he did to me, which included ruining my marriage, forcing me into a difficult situation, and trying to harm me. I asked for $25 million. When he was found guilty, the jury awarded me $50 million. Although I would no longer need to work, I still wanted to. Mary Beth would not receive any of the money from my case against Ben. I encouraged the kids to keep in touch with their mother. She would be in prison for at least 5 years, and would likely rely on them afterward. They were unhappy with how she treated me, but she was still their mother. Once my divorce was finalized, Kayla and I shared a wonderful connection. Being with her felt warm and comforting, like the sun on a nice day. For a moment, everything felt right until it didn't. Kayla helped me choose our new home, and we set up rooms for Andy and Daisy for when they visited from university. Because she cared about safety, Kayla insisted that we build a secure room in the house and add many safety features to protect us. On Thanksgiving, I invited all the kids and their partners over to meet Kayla. I was happy to see that Liz and Daisy liked her right away. Kayla is friendly and fits in well in any situation, but Andy surprised me. He made it clear he didn't like her and didn't give a reason for his opinion. The girls tried to talk to him, but he wouldn't share his thoughts, and Kayla felt hurt by his rejection. He wasn't rude to her. We had taught him better. He was polite and only talked to her when he had to. I didn't push him to share his feelings because that would only make him pull away more. This was the first Thanksgiving without their mother. Maybe that was part of the issue. Everyone has to cope in their own way. As siblings, I hoped one of his sisters would find out what was bothering Andy, but they were met with, "I don't want to talk about it." When I suggested therapy, he made it clear he didn't want to go. We were at a standstill. Kayla asked if she should move out to make things less awkward between them. I told her firmly that would only happen if I wasn't around. She responded with one of her comforting hugs. I did my best to lift everyone's mood between Thanksgiving and Christmas by putting up many decorations and taking them shopping separately for gifts. 10 days before Christmas, it hurt me when Andy asked if he could stay with my parents for a while. My parents adored all their grandkids and would do anything for them. Reluctantly, I agreed, but made sure he would spend Christmas with us as a family. My parents understood and promised to help figure out what was going on with Andy. The girls and I missed him, and his absence was deeply felt. A week after he left, Kayla got a call from my mom inviting her to spend the night. We had no idea what was happening and hoped my parents weren't trying to force them together. I wanted to hear any news, but my phone stayed silent that night. His sisters and I were told not to call. Finally, the next morning, my parents returned with Andy and Kayla, and they all walked into our house together. To my surprise, everyone was smiling. That was a relief. We all hugged, gathered in the den, and turned off the Christmas music. Andy took a deep breath. "Dad, I owe you and everyone an apology for how I acted the last few weeks. Thank you for being patient while I figured things out. Grandma and Grandpa are amazing. They never pressured me to talk. Still, I wanted to share but didn't know how without feeling embarrassed. When I finally told them what was going on, they thought Kayla could help me understand since she was tied to my feelings. Dad, Kayla is a really special person, and I want you to know that I fully support your relationship with her no matter where it goes." Andy glanced at Kayla, who encouraged him with a nod to go on. "The first time I met her in person, I was really nervous. I had heard about how she helped you when you needed it, and how she made a big difference in your life. I was excited to meet her, but I was also surprised when she walked into the room. I saw something around her, like a bright blue glow with little white sparkles. At first, I thought I was imagining things or something was wrong with my eyes. When it didn't stop, I started to wonder if something unusual was happening. I was scared because it only happened with her. Dad, you told us about your autism and synesthesia a long time ago, and I felt lucky that I hadn't experienced anything like that. Then I thought that maybe I was feeling something similar to what you feel, and that made me sad. I didn't want to be like that. The strange part was that it only happened around Kayla, and that's why I wanted to leave the house for a bit. Grandma and Grandpa are great listeners. When I finally shared my worries with them, they understood that Kayla's way of seeing things was different from yours, Dad. That's why they invited her over, hoping she could help me understand what I was feeling. We figured out that my experience is more like hers than yours, Dad. I see a glow, while you see numbers and answers. Kayla was amazing. She told me that her experience started when she was younger than I am now, with just one person at first. Then it grew to include everyone she met. She said that synesthesia is a gift, not something that needs to be fixed. She helped me see that it was something special and that I should accept it. I've started to notice others with a very light blue glow around them, even if it's hard to see. Grandma and Grandpa have it, and now you do too, Dad. I believe that these blue glows mean that people are good and trustworthy. We all jumped up and hugged, filled with joy and a few happy tears. This felt like great news. Kayla was relieved to know she wasn't causing any trouble in our family. With everything feeling good again, it didn't surprise anyone when I knelt down on Christmas Day and asked Kayla to marry me in front of all our loved ones. Her joyful acceptance was met with excitement, as she happily showed off her sparkling engagement ring to everyone. That summer, Andy was my best man, and Liz was Kayla's maid of honor at our wedding. We brought over 30 members of Kayla's family from Israel to see Kayla Feldman become Kayla Stevenson. They were all eager to meet the man who had won their daughter's heart and welcomed me warmly. Right after our honeymoon, Liz told us that we were going to be grandparents. They had found out just before our wedding but didn't want to overshadow our special day. Kayla is 7 years younger than me, and she has a good sense of adventure. I always try to keep her happy. After the wedding, we took a moment to reflect on our lives and decided we were not ready to slow down yet. I felt the need to get back to work doing what I loved. But this time, instead of working for someone else, we chose to invest our money in our own business. We started small, with an initial investment of $30 million. I was very careful in my choices and hired Bill Spencer Jr., who was looking for work, to help me with research. I asked him how he found himself without a job. But you already know, don't you, Andrew? Sadly, I do, Bill. I remember you asking about Simtech Medical Devices Corp. as a business to merge with. I mentioned that I had reservations because the company didn't seem as solid as I hoped, so I suggested it should go on a watch list. But your team gave it the green light. And after your promotion, you presented it to Ben, who loved the idea. Am I right so far? Bill replied, exactly. After our meeting that day, I looked into the law firm that helped Simtech with their patents and found some issues that didn't sit well with me. Because of that, I no longer saw Simtech as a good option. I noticed that Ben rushed the merger, taking on all their assets and responsibilities. Soon after, their competitors sued Higgins Investments, which had taken over Simtech for billions over patent issues with their devices. This happened shortly after I received my damages from Ben in a civil suit. Just like that, Higgins Investments disappeared, leaving you and the others out of work. I really didn't want to see that happen to good people. To be fair, Andrew, you did try to warn me. I should have trusted your honesty and integrity, but back then, I was unsure. I'm just not built that way, Bill. However, I do respect your ability to verify my recommendations. That's why I brought you on board at Stevenson's Investments. I don't want to reach the size that Ben did. I'm content to grow slowly and at a smaller scale. My head of security, Kayla, keeps things in order. She does not allow any foolish behavior here like what Ben tolerated with some of his senior staff. No one in our company will be having any inappropriate relationships. My wife and I are completely fine with that, Andrew. I respect you much more than I ever respected Ben. Sometimes I find myself laughing about his time in jail, wondering if he's getting treated well. I replied, it's clear that Ben enjoyed making others feel small, as much as he did with their partners. The one-way mirror he had was a clear sign. He seemed to crave attention in a very strange way. Now he might be facing some tough times in prison. Bill chimed in, have you heard about Don and Julie Sharp? No, what happened with them? As a board member, you know Don was paid very well for many years, but I learned that he had put all their savings and retirement into Higgins Investments Company because it was performing better than the Dow and the S&P. Unfortunately, when a lawsuit was filed for patent issues, the courts froze all the company's accounts. Don ended up losing everything. Now all they have left are their small Social Security checks and Julie's pension from teaching. He's looking for new work because they can't keep up with their house payments and will have to sell their nice cars. I couldn't help but smile at this news. Don hadn't been a good friend to me, and it was Julie, his close friend, who had pushed Mary Beth into joining the company's scheme. It felt just right that they were facing some consequences now. On another note, every member of Kayla's family keeps asking us when we will have a baby for them to dote on. We laughed, thinking about what a lively family that might make. But we both knew that I would need to reverse my vasectomy for that to happen. Choices. Choices. Hey everyone! Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of the exciting stories we have coming up. What do you think about the characters in this story? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.